Look at us now, tip to tip.
Ooh, Jesus.
Oh.
Shout out to Moreno Kombat.
Do you want a margarita? Yes! My God!
It's us doing what we love. It's time to bang. Oh, yeah, you know that sound, right? This show's got more Riz than a chubby Italian kid. It's Morning Kombat. It's back in your face hole. Monday, March 31st, 2025. You're looking at the BBC with that BDE, Brian Campbell. Thank you for joining us. The co-host, the man in charge, fresh off the bird from Iowa City and XFC 52. It's Luke Thomas in the house. And Luke, we got a great show. We got a great attitude.
Yeah.
We're ready to kick some arse right now.
Slept to the alarm. I slept to the alarm.
That almost never happens.
That almost never happens.
Notice you didn't enter with a Monster Pink Energy drink.
Oh, I almost did. Don't think I didn't go in there, and I was like, you know what? Let me get a coffee. It's better for me. But I did sleep to the alarm today.
All right.
So
Hey, congratulations on a fantastic call on Friday night's XFC card.
Thanks,
over
man.
there. I enjoyed those highlights. Maybe we'll catch a few on Have You Seen This Shit. How did it feel for you?
I was, as I told everybody on the lead up to it, I was nervous as balls for that gig because you know what? We had done a fair amount of boxing commentary on the prelims for Showtime, which was great. I'd be happy to do that again. But I actually was trying to think about this. But prior to Friday, I've obviously called a lot of MMA, but I could not remember the last time that I actually did.
Was it like riding a bike in the end? Did you feel like you had it again?
They let us, so here's one thing that I didn't share. They let us call an amateur fight up front.
Oh, nice.
So I got to get some of the, I got to get the gears moving. And then the first fight that I called for the broadcast that aired wasn't a knockout of the year contender.
Dude, it was insane.
And I'm going to state this again. I'm sure we'll have it in Have You Seen This Shit? It was the guy's pro debut.
Unbelievable.
I couldn't believe what I was looking at. So it actually ended up being a great night. BC was insanely supportive. I mean, there's a lot of people that are actually really supportive, so I have to be very thankful about that. Thanks to XFC, thanks to Big E, thanks to Chris Defendis, everybody there at the staff, Johnny LaQuasto.
Oh, I call him Habibi.
Oh, I think he has a Saudi wife, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously Jessica Aguilar and everybody else on that whole staff. It was, man, that was a really fun night. I'll put it that way. A really
the
fun
beginning
night.
is some big stuff. And obviously, if you didn't know already, this episode of Morning Kombat, is brought to you by the fine folks at DraftKings. And as you already know, DraftKings, the crown is yours. Shout out to everybody watching on YouTube, listening. I don't know, when you're cutting the lawn, maybe we're almost at that time of the year, or watching on the DraftKings network. It's going to be nice and warm today in NYC. I need this spring to hit us. Let's go, spring. All right?
We need to do the shoe off.
We do.
We have to do the shoe off.
We do.
So BC and I today are wearing the ugliest motherfucking shoes on the planet.
So my kids talked about these free shoes I received from CBS Sports as ugly dad wannabe Jordan bowling shoes.
Put them up here. Put them up on this side.
All right, here we go.
Long Island, get a nice.
Let's see how
we need the
flexible I
fans
can
to
be.
go, I think, on YouTube and then vote who's got the worst shoes. Get them a little more sideways. Look at that. Look at those POSs.
Oh, these are great. I mean, on the back they say CBS Sports right there. Look,
Okay,
it's
and then
fantastic.
these ones you guys have seen, but just for comparison's sake. I don't have the good lighting on this one. I mean, could we look at these are our like bad fucking positions. Like I can barely move.
MK's turning into a bad porno apparently, but
All right, so go vote. Who's got the worst shoes?
Shout out to my
BC?
CBS Sports shoes. They're
I have to say, when they were over here, I was like, oh, BC was rocking what I think they call those the Dunk Lows from Nike.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then
I mean, check this out already.
Show them the CBS Sports logo to the back there. Look at that, bro.
Oh yeah, baby, that's what I'm talking about. All right,
Those are awesome.
I'm repping my team right now.
Those
okay?
are awesome.
You know, I'm
Those
just
are
gonna
awesome.
go barefoot the rest of the show. Let's get out.
Let's do it. Let's smell those. Let's
Oh,
smell
we got
those
a
corn
great-
chip feet.
We got a great show for you today. Of course, recapping UFC Mexico City, looking at some interesting news involving the likes of Kyoji Horiguchi, maybe Top Rank and PBC going to work together. A lot of interesting stuff in the combat sports space. Maybe Luke will drop a chee-wee-wees, biatch.
Chee-wee-wees.
There you go. Let's say hi to the third member of our team. He's a producer, director, bong enthusiast, and yes, he is here by way of an Australian man's Australian man's ball bag. Wow, I can't talk today. Hey, it's Luke Nocita of the Main Card Minute.
What's up, guys? How are we?
No,
We're all right.
How are you, dude? I checked in on the Main Card Minute over
Yeah.
the weekend, and a lot of smoke being.
Was it a solemn occasion now that Erceg lost?
No, I didn't have a bet on Erceg. I had the over 2.5, so we cashed. The only bet I actually missed on the main card was Lazy Boy. Other than that,
Yeah,
4
he
out of
didn't
5.
perform that great.
Yeah, no, he looked like
Why do
shit.
I hear an echo?
I don't know. I don't hear one.
All right,
It could just be your settings. You have to kind of get those right.
there we go.
Chickadee ding ding.
Chickadee ding ding. Enough nonsense, I think, to start the day. Oh yeah, you can like this broadcast. You can subscribe on YouTube or wherever you are listening at the moment. We love your support. You can support us on social along with our individual YouTube channels.
Do we want to talk about this GFL news real quickly?
Yeah, so let's hit it over the top. The GFL has announced their debut weekend. 2 cards, back-to-back days, and some people in the comments, Luke Thomas, are saying, even though these are a little bit morbid matchups of old fighters against one another, some people have more interest than most UFC cards for this. Do you think that's a little overblown? What do you think about
I
this?
think it's going to be the same thing we saw with the Bellator guys, where it's like, oh, I'm kind of intrigued by this. And then you actually see the fighting quality, and you're like, yeah, I'm not intrigued by this.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. There's a part of, the gas station hot dog in me that sees Faber Barao 3, and I'm like, yep, I'm in.
Very
I'm in.
quickly, Saturday, May 22nd, this is day 1. By the way, a 4:30 p.m. start on this. Faber versus Barao, Chad Mendez versus, I don't know who, Mayaiki Linares, I don't know who that is. Anthony Pettis taking on Benson Henderson. Holly Holm versus Julia Budd. Marlon Moraes taking on Ray Borg. And then Alexa Connors versus Kat Zingano. By the way, as BC kind of pointed out to me before the show, this is not one team versus another. That's LA versus Sao Paulo, New York versus London, and then Miami versus Dubai.
That's so convoluted.
It's so ridiculous. It makes no goddamn sense. Then Sunday, same thing. LA, New York, London, Miami, Dubai, whatever. But you got Tony Ferguson, Dylan Dennis, Uriah Hall, Douglas Lima. It's actually not bad.
I don't hate those.
That's not bad. Ilima McFarland versus Viviane Pereira. Alexander Gustafsson versus Oven St. Preux. That is a disaster. Alan Belcher versus Stuart Austin. Paige Van Zandt versus Randy Field. And then Luis Gilsman versus Abu Nurmagomedov. Your mileage may vary. I
have to say, for a opening statement, there's some morbid matchups I want to see there. But I have to say, the only thing worse than team MMA is convoluted multiple team MMA on the same card.
Yeah, by the way, so it's
here?
LA versus New York in the main event, and then New York versus London with Gustafsson, St. Preux, and then Belcher, Stewart, Austin. So that makes no goddamn sense.
No.
But I will say, there's definitely a lot of name value to these cards. That main event between Ferguson and Dennis.
Dude, you got to watch it.
I'm going to watch. Dude, I mean, people are always like, are you going to watch? Guys, the bar for me to watch is quite low. It's quite low. Two crickets could be fucking scrapping in the middle of traffic crossing the road, and I would watch. But I will say, Dennis, I thought for sure was a goner after his last disastrous bout. What was that, the Logan Paul one?
The boxing match.
Yeah,
yes.
where he just looked like absolute butthole in that one. But he has managed to, he's got a KSI one coming up.
No, they canceled.
Well, they booked because KSI was sick. I mean, to Dennis's credit, he didn't pull out. And then he's got this Ferguson bout. Man, for a guy who hasn't done anything in MMA, he's managed to have a little bit of a career here.
Did you see Ryan Bader told Submission Radio that he'd love to fight Daniel Cormier in GFL?
Did you see Daniel Cormier teach a seminar over the weekend?
No, was he wearing the WWE referee shirt?
First of all, let me just say this. Daniel Cormier, as a commentator for the National Wrestling Championships,
awesome.
was 10 out of 10 good. 10 out of 10 good. And I actually thought with Lorisenko, he was also really good this weekend. He might be the fattest man alive right now.
Wow.
And I'm not even hating. I love Daniel Cormier.
He's like us prime COVID?
Yeah. No, plus 20.
Oh, boy.
Plus 20.
Oh, boy.
So like prime COVID with a little bit extra. I love Daniel. I'm not hating. But he must be enjoying life because he looks like he's enjoying life. You know what I'm saying?
Let him do it. Hey, let's enjoy our show, and we'll get
All
into
right,
it right off the top here with topic number 1, UFC Mexico City, a fight night card, but I really loved it on paper. I liked it even better the way it played out. We had finishes, we had excitement, we had an electric crowd. It was basically the antithesis of UFC London from a week before, and in the main event, a very important flyweight tilt with title implications as former 2-time champion Brandon Moreno took on former title challenger Steve Erceg, who was riding a 2-fight losing streak coming in. But as we talked about, there was a lot at stake for the winner, and that winner in the end would be Brandon Moreno. 4 rounds to 1 on all 3 scorecards, or at least 2 of the 3. Was it 2 of the 3 or all 3?
Well, I didn't see the actual
It's
score.
all 3, 49-46, and all 3 judges gave Erceg round 3.
Yeah, none of them gave him round 2, which I thought was kind of weird.
4 to 1 for Moreno, a unanimous decision overall. He challenged Hunter Campbell. We'll talk about in the post-fight interview. He wants to make a huge turnaround and comeback. And even more important for Moreno, it snapped his losing streak in the octagon in Mexico City, where he was 0-2-1 coming in, the big fan favorite. So, Luke, did this win give Moreno, here's the key question, did it give him enough reason to leap Manel Kape or Kai Kara-France, who's most recently been rumored for the next title shot against champion Alexandre Pantoja, or will it be held against him ultimately that he's got a total of 3 losses against the current champion?
I saw some of your tweets about the fight, which I thought was kind of interesting because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you had said, and I'm not sure during what round you had said this, that Moreno versus Erceg was heading towards technical thriller territory.
I was trying to troll my catchphrase, but I really enjoyed this fight.
I wouldn't say I really enjoyed it.
I'm not saying fight of the year. I'm not saying barn burner, but I'm saying high skill, technical, close, even though 4 to 1 on the scorecards, the rounds were close. What am I missing here?
I would say that I generally agree with that characterization. I think the part where I would separate is there was really not a lot of punctuated moments, save for that one right hand that landed in the first, that kind of rocked Erceg. There was a couple other ones.
He dropped him with that right cross.
Sort of. It stumbled him. I mean, he didn't go fully, to his ass or whatever. But I would say it does not make him leapfrog Manel Kape. And it's not that you couldn't do that. He was already sitting at number 2. He beat a very good guy in Erceg, whatever his ranking was, I think, heading into this contest, 7 or 8. And so for that reason, if we're just talking about the meritocracy of it all, could you make an argument for him to be right back in a title fight against Pantoja? I suppose you could, but I'm not gonna. He lost to him in 2016, I believe, 2018, and then 2024, whatever it was, 2025, whatever 2023 maybe.
Okay, one was the Ultimate Fighter.
Yes.
One was a non-title bout, but ultimately legit.
Fine.
And the third one was a title bout, but was an absolute war and a split decision. So I just want to put that out there.
Fair enough, but that's also 0 for 3. And by the way, like, it's one thing if you fight a guy and then 6 months later it's the same. Even a year later, he had I think almost 5 years between fights in certain cases, and he still couldn't quite get the job done. To me, he's going to have to wait a little bit longer. Kape, as we indicated, is still a fresh face as a title contender in this division, and I think also would match up with Pantoja, at least we think, in some kind of an interesting way. To me,
Even though Kape lost to Pantoja as well in their one meeting?
Fine, but that's just one. I mean, also, we'll have a conversation here in a minute about Moreno, but Pantoja is, we all kind of thought in terms of UFC flyweights that obviously DJ was number 1, and then Joseph Benavidez kind of held a role as like the unofficial number 2 for some time, and I don't think that's really fair anymore. He didn't capture the full weight class title, obviously lost it badly to Davison Figueiredo, granted at the end of his run.
Twice.
Right, but I mean, the last one was like devastating. And, now you have Pantoja doing what he's doing. He is the second best flyweight, I think, certainly in UFC history and maybe of all time.
Is that because Henry Cejudo's reign was too short?
Way too short.
Yeah.
Way too short. Good, but just short. It was grand opening, grand closing is kind of what it was there. So if we're talking about Moreno, for me, BC, what this one was is now he's got 2 wins back-to-back, Amir Albazi and now Steve Erceg, getting a win, as you indicated, finally in Mexico while in the UFC. There was something that was kind of missing. This was to me not any kind of win you're going to look at as like some kind of turning point, some kind of mandate, some kind of moment where you're like, this is the time that everything changed. It is not that kind of a win. It was frankly heading in not really that kind of a bout in all likelihood. Erceg, I know, got flatlined by Kai Kara-France, but in general has, as you saw in this bout, a pretty good chin and an overall pretty good defense. He's kind of hard to hurt when he's fighting up to his highest ability. But this was, to me, a guy who is clearly, we know where he has resumed position. He's a top 3 guy in this division. And this was, to me, solidifying that anything you might have thought that was going to derail him, perhaps some of the miles and some of these tough fights, that was something you'd have to think about. Somebody who was very technical with the jab, who, if you're not up to par, would snuff that out, or some other kind of factor, the pressure of fighting at home. None of those things really materialized. To me, I was kind of worried about Moreno and following those 2 losses to Pantoja and Royval about the bottom falling out on him. And to me, this win solidified that it has not.
Yeah, I mean, didn't he prove that he's still of the true elite of this division? Didn't he prove that
and
he's
on the right
improved
day,
his head movement? He was more creative with those looping right hands that kept scoring over the top.
Yes, the looping right hands were good. Again, he didn't take a lot of damage in this fight. Yes. Saif Saud, I think, has been a good partnership for him in getting right after a couple of tough losses. So to me, this was not about did he climb necessarily to a new place. No, not really, not exactly. I mean, a little bit, but not exactly. It was more about if you had concerns that some part of this process had gone a little bit wrong and he hadn't addressed it. I think, to me, that this is one of those wins that not by itself completely dispels it, but now you have enough accumulated evidence to say he is still quite fresh. He is still getting better. He is still quite good. And I think on his best night, BC, he could be champion again.
I agree. He revived himself with this fight. Not that he had fallen too far back. I mean, we talked about it. 2 back-to-back split decision losses against super elite guys. Here's the deal, though. Coming into this fight, I didn't think there was a scenario where I would come out of it saying maybe Moreno should get the next title shot. Obviously, if he had waxed Erceg in 1 round, maybe that could have changed that equation. And you might say to yourself, well, then why am I bringing this up? Did that performance show me? I think something about the passion in his speech. Tell me if I'm crazy. Something about the passion in the post-fight speech where he didn't say Dana 50 G's. He specifically said Hunter Campbell and specifically pointed to the fan base that he has, the reaction to the arena, and the fact that they just announced that UFC Noche this September would be a card in Mexico, in Guadalajara, as they pronounce it. So
you can say the G in Guadalajara.
Well, I'm trying to be more cultured, right?
Yeah.
You know
Guatemala, I mean? Guapo.
Oh, all right.
Guadalajara. You can say the G.
All right. What I'm saying here is there an argument based on the star power and the fact that we're complaining about lack of star power? We're complaining about not enough fights in big arenas with huge audiences going nuts. They're doing the right move by putting Noche on Mexican soil here. No gimmicks like the Sphere, even though I understand it was a big project. It was probably a one and done. I'm wondering if there is an argument there, but then here's the problem. That fight card won't be till September. So are you going to make Pantoja sit out? No. I'm seeing rumors in the last 24 hours that KKF could be next. Do I love KKF standing? He came off a 2-fight losing skid to win 1 fight. Granted, that 1 fight was a knockout of Erceg. It was impressive. Can we have it all at once, though? Here's what I'm going to offer you, okay? We do get KKF Pantoja next. If either guy wins, is there a case for Moreno to leapfrog Kape and fight the winner of that at UFC Noche? And I'm telling you, it's mostly because of the location and the commercial value in having Moreno fight for the title again on Mexican soil in such a big card. Or are we completely disrespecting Kape here? Where do you stand on this? Because I'm almost trying to make the argument that Moreno should be next, because I did think that performance was redemptive. You did see the impact of his brand, the firstborn Mexican UFC champion. I would want him headlining a Noche card against Pantoja, considering the all-action quality of their last fight. It was a split decision. It was back and forth. Somebody's going to get screwed here. Is there a way around this to make everybody happy? I mean, should Kape have to fight Moreno next and we have a final 4 and that figures it out?
Or you could try and run back Manel Kape versus KKF. Remember, they were scheduled to fight, and then KKF had to pull out due to concussion issues.
But then you'd be keeping the title inactive until September, if that's the case.
Yes, which I don't know if that's
so. I'm asking you, what's the best case scenario for the UFC right now?
Okay, first of all, I definitely agree with the analysis that putting Moreno in Mexico City and as well putting Noche UFC in Guadalajara, these are all great calls. Mm-hmm. Like a guy in front of his, or a woman, whoever, a fighter in front of their people rarely misses. I have seen people in Newark walk out on Shakur Stevenson.
Yes.
But short of that.
And you'll agree, Pantoja Moreno 3 for the title was a gnarly fight.
It was insane.
Yes.
It was completely insane. Again, I thought that fight was going to kill both of them in terms of any career prospects after, because it was such a just brutal ass fight. Man, that's a great question. What do you do here? Okay, if you don't have Moreno to headline Noche UFC, what Mexican fighter can headline for them in that role? I'm not sure what the answer is, because you actually looked at this. If you looked at this card, you clearly have a nice roster of Mexican fighters, but the headlining sort is somewhat in short supply. Long Island Luke, what do you think?
I was gonna say, I hope this doesn't happen, but if Diego Lopez beats Volk, I mean, he does represent Mexico too.
But he's fighting out of Mexico now, but he's Brazilian, correct?
Yeah, but he's dual citizen, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know if he's dual citizen, but like I do think that the Mexican people and the fight fans there and the community has embraced him.
Because you need a title fight if it's going to be a pay-per-view. I was going to say Yair at first, but Yair, unless he's fighting for a belt, isn't going to headline.
Right, Grasso's not on the title level at the exact second.
Yeah. Yeah, you could do Yair. But I mean, he also has a Pitbull fight coming up, and God only knows what's going to happen there. Win, lose, devastating loss, devastating win. Like, there's a lot of just unpredictability there. Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. I mean, could they do an Alexa Grasso fight headlining there? I suppose you could.
She's not in the title picture at the moment. I mean, the question is how big they want to make it. If you're going to put a non-title fight in there just to force a Mexican fighter in the main event, then will that card feel big? It's not a fight night. It's a numbered pay-per-view.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like the UFC for a flyweight title shot has to. I think Kape would be the best choice, but I do think KKF has a good claim on it as well. Moreno, to me, would come in third. So to me, Moreno would have to stay busy, but then, like, who would that be against? He already beat KKF himself, by the way. Remember, he stopped him with strikes. You got Tetsuro Taira, but he kind of was overwhelmed by Brandon Royville.
Albazi lost recently.
You could run the Royville fight back. It was a split decision loss the first time.
Oh, you're saying doing the non-title trilogy of Royval versus
Because here's
Moreno.
the thing about Moreno. He was champion. He's had title shots. Some of these other guys haven't had any of them. Kape has not had one. KKF has not had one.
You can do a non-title main event of a pay-per-view with those guys? No.
Who said Noche UFC is going to be a pay-per-view?
It's a numbered event. Is it not? Long Island.
Yeah, it's UFC 320.
So first of all, I said 320.
320. Okay.
So, all right, what if I add this element into it and I don't like
Jesus,
doing
then
this?
you have to have a title on it.
I don't like doing this, but what if we do KKF versus Kape next in a grudge match and we put an interim title at stake just so you can put it up as like the co-main event of one of the next pay-per-views, and then you tell Pantoja you're going to wait until September, you're going to fight Moreno in Guadalajara for the title.
I don't love that.
I don't love that either.
That sounds too complicated.
How do we get around this? What are we going to do here?
I don't know how.
If it's not Moreno in the main event in September, who the hell is it? And it's going to have to be for a title. It's going to have to be.
I mean, the top names that could headline in that role, you're right. Diego Lopez is one of them. That's an unorthodox call, but I think a doable call, especially if he beats Volk. If he beats Volk, then if he beats Volk, then I absolutely think you could do that.
That changes things, sure.
You could do that. And again, at 145,
I mean, Brian Ortega's not walking through that.
I was
door.
going to say, if Yair beats Pitbull,
I was just about to say it, yes.
Yair Diego.
So if Yair beats Pitbull, which, by the way, I suspect that he will. We'll see. I suspect that he will. And if Diego Lopez beats Volk, that's a showdown there. You got the adopted Mexican versus the Mexican. Say again?
Would that sell as a pay-per-view main event? I understand that if it's going to sell, it's going to be in that market. I get why.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, would that sell as a pay-per-view
by
main
itself? If that's the jewel of the card? No.
Okay.
No, but I mean, this is what the UFC's got to work with.
I just feel like
these days.
Moreno is becoming, or already is, like the face of Mexican MMA. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he is that dude. He's the blood and guts warrior in the same way that Mexico has long processed combat sports heroes through boxing. He's that blood and guts hero. Only we saw it in this fight. He's kind of evolving in the second half of his career. He's back at the title level. I just feel like you need him in that main event, but whatever on that regard, okay? We can keep rolling on
figure
forward.
that part out.
We're going to get to Erceg in a second, but let's hear some sound from Moreno on being what I just said, such a huge fan favorite, such a ambassador of the Mexican fighting and MMA brand. Let's hear him right now.
Right after the win, you go to a hunter and you're like, I want a title shot, I moved the needle, let's go to Guadalajara and put the championship fight there. How confident are you that maybe your sales pitch went through and you're going to be getting that title shot?
How confident I am? Man, I don't even know. I don't know nothing right now. I'm just happy, enjoying the moment. But let's see what happens. You know, like I saw Hunter and he looks very happy with the people, with the crowd. Like that's the thing. Like, who knows how much I move the needle? Maybe not too much, right? Flyweights always with the same problem. That's crazy. But I really believe like every single time I'm stepping that octagon, the people goes crazy. That's a fact. So let's see what happens.
I mean, you had 20,000 people cheering in an arena. I don't think that's
I'm just saying.
Bad, right? Yeah. But for sure, what you want next is a title shot. That's what you want.
That's the goal, for sure. Guadalajara, I mean, I think it's perfect. I think it's perfect for even for the UFC, for the promotion, you know? Like, if they want to get a pay-per-view event in Noche UFC in September in Guadalajara, I think I'm the right choice.
Yeah. Pantoja is yet to be booked, so you think they just wait till September?
Brother, I don't even know. Who knows? You tell me. I don't even know, man. There's too many questions. Like, I don't know.
And for sure, this time around, like a Mexican has to headline the Mexican Independence Day event, right? Last time we had O'Malley and Murad, which was a great fight, but it just feels like in Guadalajara now.
I feel today I have the enough arguments to raise my hand and say, hey, I can be the main event, the pay-per-view in Guadalajara in September.
So
He's right.
if public negotiation is like a chess or a game of poker, that's kind of a sneaky all-in move by putting the pressure on UFC and Hunter by saying, I move the needle, look at this crowd. That's a very smart move that he made right there.
Did they announce the gate receipt for this one? And obviously, in U.S. dollars, it's probably going to be a lot less than what 20,000 would sell in New York City, let's say. Did they release any numbers that you're aware of, Long Island Luke?
I'm not aware. I'll Google it right now.
So what do you make of him calling out Hunter and not Dana? I think everything about that was calculated and perfect.
Hunter was there. Dana wasn't.
That's the future. That's the
I
direction
think Dana.
it's going.
Listen, Dana is a very busy guy. Whatever else you want to say about him, he's got a lot on his plate. Hunter seems almost exclusively, I'm not sure if that's quite true, but mostly, let's say, focused on UFC. He seems to be the guy that's doing most of the deals. He's at most of these events. He's sort of the de facto guy at this point. He's not the face per se, but these fighters know which side their bread is buttered on and who they're dealing with. And by the way, he did look, he was headlining this card. He pulled out, I think it was sold out or pretty close to it. He's right. He's right about who can sell in that market.
Let me pause for the sake of pedanticness. Normally, you call me non-cultured swine, food racist. I attempt to pronounce it the right way, Guadalajara, which both Danny Segura and Brandon Moreno did.
No, your ears aren't working.
And then you corrected me and said I could pronounce the G, even though they both didn't.
No, your ears aren't working. So here's one lesson I had to learn in Spanish that was quite hard. Listen to me. Trust me. I've made this mistake a million times. There are certain ways in which they'll pronounce letters that are so soft that to your ear are imperceptible. And then I'll be like, no, trust me, I've had this conversation around this because there are other G words that you don't pronounce like this. So, for example,
is this exclusive to Mexico or all of
it depends
Latin
on the accent.
America?
But like, for example, like in Colombia, they'll have words that start with the letter B and they'll say it and you will swear on your life that they are not saying the letter B. And I would ask my wife, why aren't you guys pronouncing the letter B? And they'll be like, we are pronouncing the letter B. Like it's,
So when they say itch instead of bitch or what?
No. So for example, she'll even say, it's an American word, but she'll say it borrowing from the way in which they say the letter B. She'll be like, Taco El. And you'll be like, no, it's Taco Bell. They'll be like, yeah, I said Bell. And I'll be like, no. You said Taco El.
All right. They're speaking.
So he's saying it. He's saying it softly, but it is Guadalajara.
You're killing me. Softly.
I got the numbers for you guys. The live gate was 2.5 mil.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's
pretty fucking good.
In that market,
that's really good.
To quote Joe Pyfer, in that shithole with those swine. Good Lord.
I was like,
we'll get to that.
Dude, if you can't live in paradise in Mexico on American dollars, I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know what to tell you either. We also have Brandon Moreno talking about this, what you teased earlier. This victory put him number 1 on the list of most flyweight wins in company history. We don't have sound. We have
just the stats.
Just the stats here. And you can see it right here. So this puts him above all of them, right?
It puts him at 11. So you got Pantoja at 13, DJ at 13, Benavidez at 13. This is the conversation we were having.
Okay. I thought that he eclipsed it. I wasn't reading it.
No. Moreno's sitting at 11. So obviously he's not quite there. I mean, Benavidez, this is what I mean. Benavidez has kind of been like this de facto number 2.
Yes.
Clearly, Pantoja now occupies that place. But it creates for an interesting conversation exactly where Moreno is. So, this is what I mean. Like we were asking about Cejudo. Cejudo obviously did great at flyweight, but he just doesn't have a very long tenure there.
It's almost like Conor at featherweight, in a sense, even though Conor was there longer.
Like a shooting star, but then he was gone. You know what I mean? So it's just very, very hard to judge who's what. But I think after a win like this, he beat another really relevant guy in a tough contest. He's now accumulated enough of a resume.
You want him in the main event for a title in Guadalajara. I know you do. I know you do, okay?
You're just going to do it now on purpose, like pronouncing with a W?
That's what Danny Segura did.
He's saying it softly. I'm telling you.
Killing me softly. I'm telling you. Let's talk about Steve Erceg. Unfortunately for the fella from Australia who fought for a UFC title in his 4th UFC fight, there's now 3 consecutive losses. The very close title loss to Pantoja, the first round knockout loss to KKF, And now this. Yes, it was 4-1 on most scorecards, including mine. Yes, I thought Erceg performed like an elite. His technique was fantastic. His defense. The knock, obviously, is that he did not do enough offensively to have a greater argument for it. But Luke, Bill Parcells said it. You are what your record says you are. And at the moment, this guy's an elite fighter on a 3-fight losing skid. Is it time to admit that the company, I don't want to say failed in fast-tracking him, because he got fast-tracked because everyone in the division had fought each other so many times. But should they regret it? Should Steve Erceg regret it in hindsight, considering the lot he's in right now?
Yeah, I think he should. And I think the UFC, this is why the UFC, we'll talk about it later, but is signing Kyoji Horiguchi. This is why they brought over Kaya Sakura. This is why there's something of a renewed emphasis on not just flyweights more generally, but flyweights they can put in headlining roles either for pay-per-views or big fight night cards too, right? This is why, because Erceg was available when they needed it. And again, it's very, very easy to be like, oh, you shouldn't take a UFC title shot when we have no skin in the game that way. But the reality is also now 3 fights in a row. It's not like he lost to bums. And I want to be clear, it's not like this was a devastating loss where he got beat up and defeated. He didn't really get beat up in this way. He took some big shots here and there, but it wasn't a drubbing in that way. But it now sets him into a place kind of firmly where you're like, you're not top 5. You're just not top 5. And you might not be top 5 for some time. It's hard to say with the nature of the division. But if you don't take the right fights at the right time promotionally, it's true you get left behind. But at the same time, if you take fights promotionally as your primary reason for taking it, and again, the UFC exerts some pressure on these guys to take it, although he's his own man, he can say no, you also will mess up your development. And one of the things that I took away from this fight, BC, did it not look to you, we knew this going in, but it was really, I thought we were reminded of this, Erceg just didn't have enough weapons. He had a nice jab. He was fundamentally sound, but he did not have an especially threatening, well-rounded attack. He was kind of at the mercy of like, I have to fire everything behind the jab, and if that works, great, and if that doesn't,
sure.
I don't really know where else to go with this. Whereas Moreno might be a little bit more frenetic and kind of all over the place at times, but he's got a wide swath of different offensive opportunities to go to. And I think that played a role. If you're constantly getting ready for very, very tough guys back to back to back, you are not putting in the kind of work necessary. You don't have time to put in the kind of work necessary just to build your game. If I were in charge of Erceg, and of course I am not, and I don't have skin in the game, BC, but to the extent that I did, that's 3 fights in a row where he doesn't get his win bonus, just the show, I would take a big step back. I would take a giant step back.
So we're not going to fight Kaya Sakura next, is what you're saying?
I would fight somebody outside the top 10, to be perfectly honest with you. You need a get-right fight. That's what you need. And those are hard to come by in the UFC. If I'm the UFC, I might be kind of like trying to give him something of a soft landing after this, because not only did he fight in Brazil and Mexico, where was the KKF fight? That was in the hometown. But 2 of those, he had to fly across the goddamn earth to be the B-side to some other dude. And that's a tough opportunity. He's kind of earned one, I think, a little bit on the backside. But you just have to be careful. If you're always getting ready for this is why, BC, for example, we'll talk about it in a minute, but Raul Rosas Jr., this was his 6th UFC fight. I actually went and I looked. George St. Pierre's 6th UFC fight was Sean Shirk.
Yeah.
And I bring this all up to say there comes a point where if you become the champion, at that point, you don't really have a lot of time to work on your game. But the theory is that you've already done enough of that where you can just kind of sharpen at the margins. But if you've not sharpened at the margins and you are thrust to the front of the line, it fucks up everything in the end. This is a cautionary tale. Not one that there's no happy ending to necessarily, but as it stands, this was avoidable. This was a difficult circumstance, but I think a change is in order. A big one.
I mean, one of the 3 is a devastating loss, meaning the first round that he got blown away
that was
by
a bad
KKF.
But he in a sense, even though he lost BC, I'm sorry to cut you off. In a sense, he did rebound from that in this fight by showing resiliency through 25 minutes.
He still looks like he has top 5 ability. This is sort of a bad luck, worst case scenario. Nocita, I'm bringing you in of Main Card Minute fame because you're the son of an Australian. Can this gentleman be rebuilt? Are you worried about him?
I am worried about him, depending on how they matchmake him. I like what Luke said. He needs someone even out of the top 15, dude. Just give him a get-right fight. And it's not to say he can't hang with the top 5 at flyweight. I think he can. You can't be on a 4-fight losing streak.
Yeah, and he's got to figure out how to be more dangerous, take a little more chance, or not take reckless chances, but inflict damage, or bring the fight to the ground and try to advance that way. I mean, Moreno's doing that at 31. You see him sitting down on his punches more. You see him committing to power. That right cross that knocked down Erceg was good stuff.
Just hand to foot combos. Think about how many Moreno threw, some that landed, some that didn't, but at least they've got Erceg on the run, blocking this, landing that. Whereas Erceg is kind of just trying to fire 1-1-2, maybe a 1-2-3 at most.
Yeah.
It's just not enough. There has to be a further development of his game, and that doesn't happen until you have time to go, wait a second, time out. Let me just work on that.
There we go. Topic number 2, if we can transition, we're staying with UFC Mexico City, but let's talk fireworks because this card certainly produced that. You had an electric crowd and you had some hungry MFers looking for big time finishes. Overall, there was action. Overall, there was fun. So, Luke, there were 5 finishes on this card, and I think pretty much all of them stood out in a big way. How about a little rank here? Can you rank your 3 favorite finishes on this card, not counting mine when I was watching? No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to play that joke again. I'm sorry. Let's rewind and remove that out of the way.
Pants around my ankles.
Rank your 3 favorite finishes and then explain how you arrived at that order, because I'm going to say it. I shit on the UFC when they deserve it. This fight card was awesome and I loved it. Did you not? Were you not entertained?
I was entertained. Long Island Luke was kind of poo-pooing it a little bit.
How was the hardcore guy poo-pooing it?
I was not poo-pooing it. I said it was fun, not great. It was fun.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair.
But then there's Apex shithole cards that he's like, I actually enjoyed myself.
Yeah, I know. You love the Apex. Can we just quietly admit that you love the Apex?
I wouldn't say that. Have you guys looked at this weekend's card? I mean, it's kind of rough.
The main event is sick. Sorry.
The main event is sick, and Josh Emmett is a huge dog. Sneak peek, probably taking him.
Okay. All right. My 3 favorites. Here we go. Ready? Number 1 for me. Number 1, Ateba Gautier taking on Jose Medina. 22-year-old prospect at middleweight. When was the last time we had a 22-year-old prospect at middleweight who, by the way, looks like he's chiseled out of fucking stone? I was so excited about this one. That was number 1 for me with a bullet. He looked awesome and, by the way, menacing, and he was like, I'm single. I ain't got shit to do. Book me another fight.
I'm here to bang. By the way, poor Jose Medina, who got lit up, then called him on, and then got that ridiculous knee to the face. It just, God.
I mean, careful what you wish for.
Yes, indeed.
Number 2 for me is going to be Manuel Torres stopping Drew Dober. I know we're going to talk about the stoppage here in just a minute, but just as a win and a finish, brutal, devastating, quick, authoritative.
Under 2 minutes?
Under 2 minutes. His best win, co-main event slot. Give me that one all day. From there, I think there's a couple of different ways you could go. I have 2 choices for the last one. I'll go Jamal Emmers stopping Gabriel Miranda, especially since his cornerman wanted to fist fight as soon as it was over.
Dude, what was up with that? I would love to show it, but they would copyright us. What was the reason behind that?
The best assessment that I could find was that there was disagreement about what Jamal should have been doing.
The gentleman on the left was screaming, I fucking told you.
Yes.
Right?
So I think they wanted him to strike versus the other guy wanted him to do something else, maybe wrestle.
Yeah.
And so he was like in your face kind of a thing, but then he did the double wrist control bit, which I have to do to Tuki sometimes when she's going bananas. So those are my top 3. There's a couple different ways, obviously, you could go if you wanted, but those are my favorite. How many of those do you share?
The first 2, but I got to add, even though it wasn't a knockout, and I was moved emotionally. How about Edgar Chairez? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Edgar Chairez, yeah.
Dude, I mean, first of all, separate from the post-fight interview and the story and the late grandfather selling his truck so Chairez can get the surgery, which just, I mean, your boy, Fabiano Busquets, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
He was even writing on Twitter that he had tears in his eyes before that even happened because it was already such an emotional moment right there. But dude, how about the almost the ease in which he got himself into that submission, and then that face crank was just kind of brutal.
Reason I didn't include that was because Vergara's sub defense was like,
true.
He wasn't even hand fighting, and I was like,
don't you love that Chairez when they announced me does that like little gun motif thing, and he just kind of acts gangster.
Shocker introduced another form of fist fighting to the Mexican people, and they make it awesome. This is hardly some surprise. You know what I mean?
What do you think about him in terms of his like total stock and capability?
I think he's good.
I love the look. I love the swagger. I love the passion, you know?
I don't know if he's great.
Okay.
He's definitely going to beat up on this level of opponent. The
He's
other
at
one,
flyweight. We need guys like that. There.
okay. Who? I'll tell you which one I didn't pick in a minute if you don't pick him. Who else did you have?
No, what do you got? What do you got?
Oh, the David Martinez and the Simon Oliveira fight.
Yes.
David Martinez looked like an interesting prospect, lightning fucking speed, able to change angles and punching lanes the whole way. He looks.
The knee and then the brutal
Yes.
punches when he was down. Yeah.
He looks interesting to me.
Yeah, and that was also a first-round finish. We got a lot of those on this one. Long Island Luke, anyone jump out to you from a finish standpoint?
Not from a finish. You guys kind of nailed them all. I want to just give a shout out to Lupi Godinez, Julia.
There it is.
Blanchard. That was a fun fight.
AK, unfortunately, Poopy Godinez, but she didn't have a Justine Kish moment. I wish we can show it, but in between rounds, telling her coach, I have to poop.
That's me between stops on the train. I'm Jesus, I got shit.
Yeah, my colleague Brent Brookhouse of CBS Sports was like, can't we normalize this relatable behavior here? It was a funny moment. So was the video she put out afterwards. That was like, don't worry, everybody. I took care of it. Everything's good. But have you ever heard that before? I don't think I have. You know?
I've not heard it very often.
I have to say,
I've watched fights for a long time. That doesn't happen too regularly.
I'm glad you brought that up, Long Island, because we've been bagging on women's MMA. It's in a bad stretch. It's a bad era right now for women's MMA. My beloved strawweight division is not, 1 through 10 could contend for a title like it used to be. But that performance against Brazil's Polastri, they both freaking brought it.
Yes.
When was the last time you saw a 3-round women's fight that was all action from start to finish, got gnarlier as the fight progressed? They both laid it out on the line. To see Lupi get hurt in round 3 and have to hang through there, dude, that was prime entertainment.
Yeah, you won't hear me complain from this. I know a lot of times we're like, oh, I went to a decision again when we talk about the women's fights. But as long as they're scrapping, I really don't care. And they were scrapping.
And so Lupi was coming off a 2-fight losing streak to Jandiroba and Mackenzie Dern. But before that, she had put together a nice stretch of wins, 4 in a row, beating Calvillo, Ducote, Tabitha Ricci among those 4. Her boxing looked crisp in this fight.
She also, she always does, but she looked to be in very, very good physical condition as well.
No, Steve, didn't it look like she's kind of amping up for a run in a division that needs this new breath of fresh air?
For sure. And like you said, losing to Virna and Mackenzie, those aren't bad losses at all. She's got time to turn it around.
31, she should be in her athletic prime still for MMA as well.
And the crowd loves her, too. So that was a nice moment, I thought, to somebody who kind of stuck their head up and said, I'm here, I'm ready, I've turned things around, let's see what happens right there. So fun stuff on this, but can we show the tweet there of the difference between the feeling coming out of London and the feeling coming out of Mexico City? This is how a card is done, boy. Indeed, right there.
I even saw Brits being like, Jesus, what did we...
I know,
dude. What
even
happened?
Aspinall was complaining about that,
Listen...
And he's right.
Sometimes it's just matchmaking. It's just, dude, half of matchmaking is engineering, and the other half is just luck. And it wasn't like that card in London was filled with some bullshit fights on paper. Just it didn't fulfill its potential. This one, to me, I think over-delivered relative to what it could have done.
Let's dig back into a couple of those fun finishes we mentioned from a storyline purpose. Drew Dober. Mike Beltran got criticized for the amount of punishment Dober took after he got dropped, particularly the idea that there was all rabbit punches. I mean, was it about 75% rabbit punches it looked like?
I didn't know if they were rabbit punches.
It looked like it was close in that regard. Still,
the first one or second one maybe, but after that, no.
The complaints were about the amount of punishment he received. Although Dober would pop up and kind of, he's out of it. He didn't realize the fight was ending. He was still kind of posturing up to fight. Bad stoppage from Beltran? How do you judge that?
I mean, certainly a late one. I don't know how you can argue that one was on time. And I know what everybody says. Oh, he gave him every opportunity to right himself. And I'm like, yeah, every opportunity, and then all the opportunities he didn't actually need anymore because it was pretty clear he wasn't moving. I mean, that's the point, right? Like it's one thing if you're like grabbing a leg, but if somebody's getting drilled, they don't necessarily go all the way limp. They might just stay static. It's not like he's moving or like trying to lunge a shoulder behind the knee or pick it up or stand on his feet. He's just sitting there absorbing punishment, and then it was getting kind of looser and looser, and he just was watching it. I appreciate referees who try to not intervene too early because that, I think, is the worst thing that they feel like they can do.
Except for if there's an eye poke involved. Can you intervene already,
Yeah,
please?
in which case, if there's an eye poke, in which case they don't want to do a damn thing.
It's nice to not be talking about eye pokes for once right now.
Or bad judging.
Yes, yes, thank you.
We did have questionable judging in the first fight of the night. I thought Austin Hubbard won that.
Yeah,
fight.
fine. But I mean, you know, at the main card or where it counted, you didn't get bullshit.
Luke saying it didn't count on the
No, that's not what I mean. But I mean, like,
but
the
you're
most
right.
consequential bouts did not have.
Even if you're not saying that, you're right. We've got sound from Manny Torres talking about this stoppage against Drew Dober. Let's listen in.
And I have to ask you about the stoppage. A lot of people online
Danny
were
Segura
criticizing referee Mike Beltran for allowing that fight to continue. I believe Drew Dober took about 15 unanswered shots. What do you think about the stoppage, and how do you feel about it?
No sé si se ve o vieron que yo sí volteé a ver como que al referee para que detuviera la esta, porque yo ya no sentía nada de que él se movía, no sentía nada de actividad por él, pero pues tengo que hacer mi trabajo. Yo seguí hasta que el referee vio la oportunidad, pero creo que sí fueron muchos golpes.
Yeah,
well,
he
if you
agrees.
look the replay, I was watching the referee to say him like, I'm making a lot of damage to my opponent, but he didn't stop the fight. So I'm a professional, so I keep doing it. But yeah, of course, I feel that my opponent, he was a little down even before the stoppage.
All right.
That wasn't quite an accurate translation. I don't know who that translator was. He omitted some details. Nothing too much, but it's always kind of funny when they like give you the Cliff Notes version.
Sure.
Whereas Fabio Nabusque gives you almost word for word what they say.
Yeah, and he's kind of suave and classy in
Yes.
his delivery too. Like, you know, PBC's, of course, you know, Martin Bater of
Yeah.
does translate. Whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah, the gaucho.
The
Yeah,
thing I
or
love,
as you would call him, the Waucho.
yeah. The thing I love about the last Wow Chow is that it's almost like he's acting as he translates, right? Like he gets into the same emotional state that the person saying it is. So like if they're being snarky or they're being a dick, he'll change his voice to that, which I love. You know?
Yes, he does. He gets a little spicy with it.
Yes.
But
Well,
I mean, I want to say this. Translating is fucking hard.
oh,
it's
the
hard.
speed having to do that.
It's hard. But so when you get someone like Fabio Nabusque, you get spoiled.
Yes.
You know?
So let's talk about Gautier, who is 22 years
Somebody
old.
that I
Ateba-
used to know.
Why? The silent assassin. He's only got like 6 pro fights, right?
So, a little more than that. I think he's got 8 or 9, but yes.
And he put it on Medina. Let's hear him speak about it.
How'd you feel about the stoppage, and did you feel like the fight was done when?
No, I feel like the referee did his job, you know, like if he let me continue, you know, like something bad couldn't happen, you know. So the referee saved him. I just want to be busy, you know. I just want to keep fighting. As you say, like I'm only 22 years old, so you know my body recover very fast, very quick. So now I just want to keep being busy, like keep fighting. I'm still young. I have nothing else to do, so that's what I like to do, and I want to do that, you know, as much as I can. Thank you.
You have to say, man, he's obviously from Cameroon as well, and people are making the Ngannou comparisons, and which is fine. But what I would say is, like, you just realize, man, there's so much global talent that gets crushed by poverty or difficult circumstances or, you know, a war-torn country where you just don't have access to all of the different, you know, special athletes that exist in one place or the other. And so when a couple of them break through, you're like, dude, how many more of these guys are there? Probably a shit ton. Probably a shit ton.
Let's talk about Ronaldo Lazy Boy Rodriguez, who came in there missing weight by a pound and then loses a unanimous decision to Kevin Borjas,
Yeah, Borjas.
including 2 scorecards that were 3-0. Couldn't have gone any worse outside of getting knocked out. What were your thoughts on that?
People were asking me ahead of time, like, what are you expecting for this one? And you're always expecting chaos with Lazy Boy, but he looked... Disinterested is not the word. He looked unfocused.
Should we talk about, could it be altitude effect? I mean, like, normally a couple fights, whether it's Salt Lake City or Mexico City, or Denver, there's that effect. I didn't necessarily see, outside of Joe Pyfer, that we'll talk about, I didn't necessarily see that on this card.
No, I don't think that. I don't. First of all, he is more popular. Can we just say this because we're speaking in English here? I think for the Mexican audience, they love him a lot. He's more popular than he is good. Can we say that? I don't know if that's unfair.
They used to say that about our show.
Yeah.
Now it's the opposite. Yeah. Now we're really good. It's just we can't get any more viewers.
Yeah. Yeah, he's more popular than good. And I'm just sort of wondering if that is starting to get noticed more rather than like, oh, there was something really aberrant in this camp. Maybe there was. I don't know. But I just feel like he's coming back to earth a little bit.
Let's hear from Lazy Boy on this defeat.
A la verga. Perdimos, pero dimos show, que es lo que importa.
We'll translate.
Ríanse, pendejos. Estén agüitados. ¡Ánimo!
Not upset at all, Luke.
No, he's like, I'm laughing. I lost, you know.
So he's
keep
riding
smiling.
shirtless in the car, mouth bloodied, but that's the life of a fighter.
Yeah,
right?
he didn't look too bothered. Again, he is quite popular in Mexico, like wildly popular, which is great. But you know, this is the business of winning. That's just the reality, and you have to do that to be a star here.
All right, we're going to get into Raul Rosas in the next topic in a second, but let's talk about the Joe Pyfer Kelvin Gastelum fight that did not happen. Pyfer on Friday did an interview with Megan O'Leary after the weigh-in where he said, I'm feeling great. I'm in the best shape of my life, which, you know, seems to be the truth. He came into this camp ready, assumed he was going to dominate, was going to be an all-action matchup, and then overnight went out to dinner with the team, claims he never drank the tap water at all, slept in a tent for months to try to prepare himself for
altitude.
To the altitude, the acclimatization of it. Wow, what a word for BC right there. Wow. But then would pull out of the fight, was ill, said he should shit 10 to 12 times, and we're not going to...
That's an average morning for me, if I can just be honest.
The video he ended up putting out was multiple minutes long, so we're not going to show it. But a part of that video, he was like, I'm not a negative person. I don't want the negativity, but fuck y'all if you have a problem with it. I think that country's a shithole, blah, 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 blah. I'll never step foot in it again, blah, blah, blah. What?
Yeah.
It was like a complete heel turn.
Yeah,
but
I
it
mean,
was
I can
unnecessary.
understand certainly being disappointed because remember, one thing I try to like, you have to understand the fighter's position a little bit here, which is that this is how he gets paid. He was who knows what expenses he has.
He said he flew out his friends, family, and whole team. So
and then the whole team fell apart because he got sick in another country,
and he's not getting paid. That's the job. I mean,
and
that's
so on. If I may, I do have sympathy for somebody who is expecting to do like when we. You ever been in a situation in your life where you were expecting a paycheck and it was like just for whatever reason you lost a job or something happened at that job? Or,
yeah, when they were like, we're going to fold Showtime Sports.
Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say? Like where you're accounting on something and then it just evaporates in an instant by what appears to be no fault of your own. Again, I don't know the real circumstances, but based on what he's saying, it just kind of happened. And so for that reason, I do have a degree of sympathy. However, like using that as a basis to attack the entire country of Mexico, which, you know, is a fucking awesome place to the best of my understanding,
I love Mexico.
which has a deep and rich history, and most people are able to go through there without getting sick. Again, I'm not denying that he did. It was an unfortunate circumstance. I think it'd be one thing if he was like really disappointed and said, you know, I want more manageable circumstances next time. I think most people would be quite sympathetic to that. But then to take a shot at Mexico,
Not a shot. He took a shit on Mexico.
Yeah, well, then
Let's
to
be
do, I mean,
fair.
to just go after Mexico more broadly, which by the way, like Mexico City is in the mountains, but parts of Mexico are on the coast or in the jungle or there's desert plains. Like Mexico is a vast different place. I'm sorry that his experience didn't go well. I understand that frustration, but using that as a cause to go after a country of 130 million plus people that has vast different climates, vast different terrains, vast different experiences. And I'm going to say one more time, if you're on American dollars and you're in Mexico, you should be living real nice. It seems to me a totally unwarranted shot and, you know, quite regrettable.
Yeah. A quick mention on two other fights. Milky Costa and C-Rod had a somewhat entertaining featherweight scrap that would go 29-28 across all three. But it didn't feel like Costa necessarily elevated himself in that performance. What did you think about it?
It wasn't. C-Rod was coming in with some hype, and you thought, oh, if this guy could get a win, he could snatch a little bit of that. But it just didn't feel like that transfer took place exactly. Because if you beat up the guy that's kind of surprisingly beating up on everybody else, you kind of get this look like, okay, I'm the real deal, Holyfield. And I don't mean that beating up on C-Rod doesn't mean anything. It actually does. But it just didn't happen in a way where you could ride that momentum a little bit.
Yes. And then at lightweight, we had Rafa Garcia and Vince Pichel having a pretty damn fun 3-round fight. But then two scorecards going 3-0 in favor of Garcia.
Yeah.
And Pichel straight up says on Twitter he got robbed. Did he?
I could see a different scorecard, but I think the right guy won.
All right.
This is what I mean about the judges. Like, that wasn't necessarily the best one, but I didn't think the wrong guy got, ahead here.
I like that card. Fun times.
Yeah,
Fun times.
for 13 fights, it had a lot to offer.
Let's go to topic number 3, and it's probably the biggest storyline of that card we haven't mentioned yet. Raul Rosas Jr. He continued his winning ways here at UFC Mexico City, climbing to 4 straight wins as he defeated Vince Morales in a 3-round unanimous decision. Luke, it wasn't without, the need, I guess, for some criticism. In fact, it was Rojas himself who said afterwards it wasn't his best performance. Do you believe he's showing the signs of proper development, as this would be the 4th straight win after that loss to C-Rod? Or is the criticism right that he got trapped into some dangerous submissions against somebody maybe not a master at that there's more room for improvement moving forward?
Okay, so here's what I would say about Rosas. When I watched this fight, and I went back and I watched it twice just to make sure, I absolutely see 2 things that I think are very much playing in his favor the right way. One, I don't know how you can watch him fight versus 6 fights ago, 5 fights ago, whatever, and then not come away with the conclusion that clearly he's getting better, especially in the stand-up. Now, it's not very useful stand-up over the course of 15 minutes, but early in the first or as a means to an end, it's cleaner, the entries are cleaner, the exits are cleaner, the defense is typically a little bit better. He was getting popped with the jab a little bit, but in general, pretty good. That part is all pretty good to me. Also on the back, he's still chasing positions a little too strongly, but not nearly as bad as he once did.
Sure.
So I don't know how you can watch him and say he hasn't cleaned up a lot. He's cleaned up a lot. It's just matter of fact, he's cleaned up a lot. And then the second part is, like, overall, there's a certain kind of calmness to what he's trying, where if he gets drilled, he's not doing the same kind of tit-for-tat thing as he did, or at least not as badly. He's not going as wildly. There's a certain kind of thoughtfulness all the way through. And you saw him initially kind of striking, and then it was just a grappling game. And I think that's also the right call. We said it on Friday's MK. It still should look something like the rebuild of Aaron Pico, where could he win on the feet? Maybe. But it's better right now to use your strengths, continue to lean into them, and he's doing all of that.
Like, the plus is he got into trouble, but he got out of it for the most part. He had to put the thumbs up, though, when he was deep
especially
in that
that last one.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing you have to ask, this is the point, though, and this is kind of where I'm at. It's simply not arguable that he's not getting better. He is getting better.
It's only 20.
He's only 20. So, again, we're so far away from a point where we have to be like, what are we doing here? But at the same time, I don't necessarily see anything that tells me we're headed towards championship territory. Now, to the point you raised, you might say, but it's so early. Yes, it is. I cannot declare to you that here it is on March 31st, 2025. I'm saying he'll never fight for a title. That's really not what I'm saying.
Yeah, you were saying that 3 fights ago, actually. You were like, he's stunned. His growth is stunted. He'll never, blah, blah, blah.
Well, he's getting better, but like, people were calling him prodigy.
Yes.
What is the evidence for that?
Okay, that's a fair point.
So I'm not denying he's not making the right kinds of incremental progress that you should see for somebody at 20. I just don't know what that has to do with him within, I'm going to be the youngest champion or youngest bantamweight champion or whatever. We seem very far removed from that. And so, again, it's kind of step by step and iterative. But like, this is what I said on Friday, ABC. Like, we're kind of removing a little bit of that part of the conversation, I think has not died, but it has significantly shrunk around him,
right?
Which I think is to his benefit. That conversation right now is poison for his career.
It was poison for Macy Barber, too, at that time, right?
And she finally is turning a corner, it appears, and she has this fight coming up against Erin Blanchfield. We'll see how that goes. But for Rosas at 20, dude, we shouldn't even be contemplating a title fight right now in his defense. So I guess what I would say, BC, is I do like what I am seeing. Let's see how it goes. But I'm going to continue to ask for restraint about where this all leads. We're not even at that point of the conversation where we even have to worry about that yet.
The crowd loves him, though.
Yes.
And they're building something. So I think they have the motivation. They should have the motivation to continue this slow build. We saw signs on the ground where he's not fully there. I mean, I don't know enough about the grappling jiu-jitsu game to try to speak on this, but was he put in dangerous situations in choke attempts that shouldn't have put him there?
So the guy he was going up against is an interesting kind of grappler because he has something, that particular kind of choke series he goes for, to me, is a little gimmicky. But gimmicky doesn't necessarily mean bad.
The Mackenzatine was unstoppable until it wasn't.
Right. So, for example, I think that his opponent should have tried to wrap the legs rather than trying to wrap behind the head. He was trying to recapture the mechanics of what he does for that shin in, like almost Peruvian necktie / guillotine setup that he has. And I think that at the point where he was transitioning, he should have moved away from that, and he didn't. And so that to me is like he was going for a choke that probably works really well in the room, and it has in certain amount of fights. But against resisting good opponents at the UFC level, and again, this is an opponent who is there in that sense, it's just going to be low percentage, which I think is what the evidence showed you. So you have to ask yourself, if someone else had gone for a guillotine, then switched to a Darce or an Anaconda or whatever, depending on the setup, I guess an Anaconda in this case, I have to go back and look, and then wrap the legs, that's a different scenario.
Yes.
That's when you're going to begin to crunch them like an accordion.
And he widely lost that final round.
Yes.
And 2 of the 3 rounds in the fight, he was saved by the bell with the choke on.
So this is, and to me, that's something else I'm noticing. Him not tapping to those kinds of things, he got a little bit lucky with that. Okay, but whatever. Guys get lucky in fights for things, and he did good defense where he would roll on top of his opponent, where you're just kind of having to use the arms for the squeeze. And unless you're just like insanely strong, that's very, very difficult to secure. The thing that's more interesting to me is he comes out in the first round a lot of times and he gets like these takedowns, and then he'll get to the back and you'll be like, wow, dude, like he's going to build from here.
And he gets there quick. It's seamless, right? It's
okay.
like,
But then by the second and third rounds, what you begin to notice is sometimes he gets to these positions, but they actually become less and less effective as the rounds wore on versus more effective against more advanced grapplers, because an advanced grappler will kind of test that to see what you're going to give them, and then they're like, oh, I have now audited your defense, and now I know how to beat it. He doesn't seem to know how to beat it yet. And again, I want to say it one more time. He's fucking 20. This is why these conversations about where it's all going are a little silly. But that is something to pay attention to. For somebody who can score that quickly in the first, he should be able to build off of that.
Yeah.
Again, you might say, well, what about Bilal against Leon? Okay, but that's 2 title fucking winners, basically. That's a different level of a conversation. At the prelim stage, if you can get to someone's back almost instantly, you should be able to build off of that. Yeah. And to me, he rides positions better. He didn't fall off and go forward at the same time, the same way he did. He was much better about going off to the side or pulling his opponent off of the base. But the fact that it continues to get less effective over time, to me, is a bit of an issue.
Yeah, he's 20 and he hasn't learned how to beat it. I learned that in high school. You know what I mean? Okay. Hey, let's hear from Rosas.
Don't reward that.
Okay, let's hear.
Don't reward that.
Let's hear from Rosas grading his performance.
Now let's talk about your performance. Overall, how would you grade it? Went to a decision. You looked good in the striking. Obviously, your grappling's always been strong. How would you grade it, and how do you feel about it?
Is Dana Segura the only
I gotta
guy
watch
there?
it, but for now, I'll grade it 8 out of 10. I feel like I got a lot to improve, and I'm proud of myself in a way that I managed to stay calm, patient throughout hard positions. I feel like I connected him in the first round, but then he slipped the other punches, and then I went for the takedown. I just would have liked to finish, but these fights give me more experience. I'm just 20 years old, still growing, evolving, and getting a step closer to the belt.
Now that the fight's over, is it safe to say that your next fight has to be against a ranked opponent?
I think so. I mean, or whoever the UFC wants to put me, to be honest. More than anything, I'm just focused on the belt. That's all. It doesn't matter if I'm 10 fights away, 15 fights away. I'll get them over with. That's my ultimate goal, and more than anything, I'm able to provide for my family every single fight more and more. And I'm just happy that now, God willing, I'm going to be able to go back right now and talk about buying a house for my mother, my family, and keep supporting them and myself. So I'm happy at the moment and excited to be back, hopefully, against the top 15 opponent.
It was a largely sober response from him. I liked it. Interesting, though, that he scored himself an 8 out of 10 when in the cage he seemed much more down about the performance.
8 out of 10 seems a little strong, but it depends what he's grading. Because, what did we work on in camp, and to what extent did we execute? In that sense, it might be 8 out of 10. I don't know what the grade is. The one thing I will say is giving him a ranked bantamweight next would be a tragic mistake. Don't do that.
Long Island, Luke, I don't know about. I'm not going to go as far as tragic mistake, but development wise, where are we at with him?
I mean, I do think Vince Morales is someone who's kind of hard to look good against, so I don't judge him too much for this performance, but I also don't think he needs a ranked opponent yet. I don't think it'll be tragic, but I think he needs one more before getting a top 50.
All right. I like what he said, that if it's 10 to 15 fights before the title, I mean, he's being sober and honest, so that's not bad.
Yes, that part I thought was good. It might, and in fact, it might actually be that long. So fine.
All right. Hey, now is a good time, by the way, to remember where tequila's story truly began. In 1795, Cuervo invented tequila. Since then, Cuervo has stayed true to its roots. It's the same family, the same land, and that same passion. 230 years later, they are still here in every pour, in every margarita, and in every celebration. So enjoy the tequila that started it all. Cuervo, the tequila that invented tequila. ProximoCuervo.com. Please drink responsibly. And Luca, another reminder to the people that we are closing in on the loaded UFC 314 card, which means next Wednesday, not this Wednesday, next Wednesday, April 7th, 9th, April 9th.
9th, I think.
Right here.
Manhattan.
Cuervo, me, you, MK, pregame preview, UFC 314.
Condoms, mayonnaise.
What about the person in this chair?
What about him?
Who's it going to be?
An unshowered piece of shit.
Okay, here we go. There it is. All right. Let's keep this show on the tracks and we'll keep it going. So tune into that one. Thank you very much, Cuervo. Topic number 4. Hey, for all the crap we've been giving UFC of late of not signing Vakitov or Paul Hughes or what have you in the larger European scene, they did sign Kaya Sakara recently. And now the UFC has added once again former flyweight title challenger Kyoji Horiguchi. Horiguchi announced he has relinquished the Rizin or Rizin. Man, I can't figure that out.
That one I don't know.
Man,
I don't know. I never got a good
out.
answer on that.
He is relinquishing his title to rejoin the UFC. So, Luke, at this stage of his career, what would Horiguchi add to the flyweight division? And on the other side of it, what does Rizin get out of this?
So on the Rizin side, I have to be honest, I don't quite understand the talent sharing. Now they had a talent sharing proposition with Bellator that made a little bit more sense because they would send Juan Archuleta over there, but then they would get people on the back end, Horiguchi, you name it. They put Horiguchi into the tournament for the bantamweight tournament, which was great. So that part I get, but I haven't seen any UFC people go over to Rizin yet. Now maybe Rizin is just trying to be on good terms with UFC. Maybe there'll be a future opportunity to partner on some kind of card when they go back to Japan. And
somewhat related to this is Juan Archuleta, the former Bellator champion who's been fighting in Rizin. He came out yesterday and said he wants to fight on the Guadalajara card and he wants to make his UFC debut there. So that could be
as El Conquistador. I'm not sure how much the Mexicans will appreciate that, but nevertheless, I we'll see. But this is what I mean. I'll be honest. I've been looking for some English language coverage about how Rizin is performing in Japan and what exactly not so much. What do they get out of a talent sharing partnership? What do they get out of this partnership? The Bellator one to me was a little bit more straightforward. But on the UFC side, you're getting somebody who, 10 years ago almost, basically, I think, fought for a UFC title, only losing at the last second of the 5th round to the all-time best guy to ever do it. And I know Horiguchi has suffered losses. He lost to Kaya Sakura, but he avenged it. He lost to Sergio Pettis, and in Rizin, he avenged it.
Did he lose to Patchy Mix as well?
He did. There hasn't been a chance to avenge it. And he only really lost because of back control. He didn't get beat up or something. And, Patchy Mix, who went through the bantamweight tournament, is one of the best bantamweight. That guy was one of the best bantamweight tournament performers I'd seen in quite some time. But in this particular case, you're getting clear quality and depth. And what I mean by that is, BC, I actually don't think he's going to win the title. He has said his goal is to become the first Japanese fighter to win a UFC title, which you have to say,
that's wild that has never happened.
It's unbelievable that no Japanese fighter has won a UFC title. And if you're new to MMA, that might not sound crazy. You have to understand, in the aughts when Pride was at its hottest, the Japanese, it wasn't just that Pride was the biggest show. The entire Japanese apparatus of MMA was enormous, where you had all these different shows. You had Pancrase, you had Pride, you had Smack Girl, Jules, Deep, you had Shuto. Just had endless amounts of shows. You had tons of gyms. You had, you couldn't swing a dead cat and not hit some kind of top-level Japanese fighter. A lot of that went away when Pride went away. But nevertheless, there's been great, Japanese UFC fighters. Yuki Kondo, Hayato Sakurai. I could go on and on. Somehow, none of them have ever won a title. So
Sakuraba
fought in the UFC, that's right.
The Gracie killer.
Yes, but he became that through pride. You know what I mean? But the point I'm trying to make is it would be a huge deal for somebody to be a Japanese fighter and then win the UFC title. I find that unlikely. Horiguchi, 34, either at flyweight or bantamweight, that's still pretty old. But BC, if he stays at flyweight, it is quality and depth to the rest of the roster where guys like Erceg don't have to get thrust to the front of the division over and over and over again because you've got more kind of mid to high level ranking quality that you can call upon to fill some of these slots. And I think that's going to relieve a lot of pressure on guys like Erceg and the UFC more broadly, to say nothing of the fact that, yes, he in fact could win a title on top of it.
Oh, definitely he could. He has a history with Asakura. What, did they fight twice?
I think so, yes.
And they split him, right?
Yeah, he got knocked out the first time, but then he came back and beat him the second
So are
time.
we going to be looking at a trilogy potentially on Japanese soil, or the UFC won't do that?
Ooh,
'Cause
that's a great question.
That'd be big.
Here's the thing. You could book that fight in the U.S. Would the U.S. audience even appreciate it?
Not on the same
know.
level, no.
No. But this is what I mean. Maybe the UFC has designs also on going back to Japan to do a show. And if they do, now you've got a stable of some of the better, more well-known guys. And in the case you're mentioning, something of a rivalry that you could also plug in to headline or put onto the card.
Has he fought anybody that's in like the UFC top 15 right now?
So let's look at the rankings as it stands. So you've got Pantoja. I don't think he's fought him. You've got Royval, Moreno, Albazi, KKF, Tyra.
He fought the older generation that's out at this
Tyra,
point,
Kopp, Perez, Erceg, Ambalayev,
All right,
Ulanbekov,
we'll
and then
look that
on from
up.
there.
Let's see from
Kaya Sakura's at 15, so yeah.
Let's hear Horiguchi's statement here.
発表した後に皆さん見られてると思うんですけど、皆さんにやっと伝えられるっていうことに関しては今どんな気持ちですか？
まあそうですね。まあ嬉しい報告ができるなっていうのと、まあ新たに自分の挑戦に素直に
that people are happy for his new challenge and going to the UFC.
まあ自分も力をもらってるかなっていう感じ。
Says he's getting strength from it too.
俺もやっとね。やっぱキッドさんとかがね取れなかったベルトだし。
Kid Yamamoto wasn't able to win a belt. That's so
そこでベ
true.
ルトを取れっていうのをねすごい言ってたんで。まあそういう人たちの思いも背負って。
He says he wants to carry the people's feelings on his shoulders as he goes into his fight. Yeah, interesting.
Very interesting stuff. I'm looking up and down his record, so it would be a lot of fresh matchups here, which could get fun. He fought, yeah, you mentioned he fought Sergio Pettis in Bellator. You think Sergio Pettis ends up back in the UFC at all? He's still kind of got it, right?
I don't know where he's headed. That's a great question. I don't know.
Interesting. All right.
Do you guys think Horiguchi fights at flyweight or bantamweight or what? Because he's boys with Pantoja, so they're not going to fight each other for the belt.
Bullshit.
I mean, they might fight each other. Dude, they're like, forget that they train at ATT. I know a lot of people train there. They're like direct training partners. So
Yeah, but for a belt? You think he's he's
I don't
literally
know.
coming here to
I'm
be a
asking
champion.
You. I'm asking what you think. I don't know.
I think he's going to be what like a dual citizen, right? If there's a big opportunity at bantamweight, he'll take it.
Yeah.
There's a big opportunity at 125, that's where he'll be.
Man, can we get Patchy Mix in here and we'll just rematch them at
I'm
bantamweight?
telling
Come
you.
on.
I'm telling you. And,
Come on.
and again,
Get him
at
out of
140
PFL. Can we get Corey Anderson out of PFL jail too? I mean, come
and
on.
Pico.
Yeah.
Pico. By the way, PFL starts this week.
Interesting.
Did you see it? Did you see for their bantamweight tourney? I think they only have 3 of the original names. Everybody else fell out.
I know. I mean, that's what happens when you have tournaments that are worthless and meaningless that are going nowhere. Hey, can we have this tweet here from Horiguchi? Luke, what is going on here?
So obviously you can see the Japanese has been translated. This was him at Rizin. If you could take the lower third off there, there, thanks. That's him standing next to Sakaki Bara, who's basically like the mastermind of all of Japanese MMA for the last.
What you mean, Saki Kabara?
That's what I said.
Oh, you said Sakaki and added kind of like
Oh,
a
did I?
shit
I didn't mean
notation
to.
in there. And
I didn't mean to. I meant Sakaki Bara. That's how you say it.
Saki Kabara.
Saki. Wait, where is the fucking? Look that up. Am I saying it wrong?
You're saying Sakaki. It's Saki Kabara, I thought.
Saki. Can you look that up, Nobuyuki?
There's no looking up. That's how you
Hold
say
on,
it.
hold
Do
on.
we have to ask your wife again? What is going on here, Luke?
No. I want to see. It's all about the spelling. It's all about the spelling.
I announced him at that Ryan Garcia press
No, I'm
conference.
right. You're wrong.
It's not Sakaki.
Yes, it is. Sakaki. Sakaki Bara.
Yeah, no, it's Saka Kabara. You're saying Sakaki. Why did this show turn
Okay,
into
well, I don't know how to pronounce
pedantic
Japanese, but it's Sakakibara.
Yeah.
Sakakibara.
There's no cocky.
Sakakibara.
Stop cocky. That's no more cocky.
Sakakibara.
Sakakibara.
Sakakibara. Okay, I'm just putting emphasis in different places, but I'm not introducing wrong letters. Either way, put the tweet up very quickly if you can. Sorry about that long on, Luke. So it's him. It's Horiguchi standing next to him, and he's basically saying, I'm announcing I'm going to the UFC. I want to thank UFC President Dana White, And I'm going for Saka Kibara.
Yes.
For encouraging me, and then the fans and all the support as the Rizin champion, which, by the way, he had to relinquish his Rizin flyweight title to do it. I'll be going for the belt for the first Japanese to do so, Japanese fighter. And then he thanks everyone as well. He announced it formally to the audience there in Japan, which they seemed receptive to.
You mentioned there's a partnership, so is Rizin getting paid to release him?
This is what I'm trying to understand. Again, the Bellator one with Scott Coker, I really understood. I don't quite get the terms of this one at all.
But I'm happy for it. You have to be happy for it. This is a great pickup by
I think
UFC.
more integration with UFC and other shows can only be good for consumers.
Yeah, can you integrate with PFL so we can get these fighters in where they belong?
Seriously.
All right, let's transition to topic number 5 right here. We're going to go into the sport of boxing. There were a bunch of fights that were kind of interesting over the weekend. Shout out, by the way, to Michaela Mayer and Sandy Ryan in that all-action rematch. But this one's about the future. We know that the TKO takeover is coming. Turki Al-Shakh, Dana White, Nick Khan, all that and then some. But what about the remaining powers that be? Well, if you talk to top-ranked chairman Bob Arum, there could be a future where 2 of the 5 traditional boxing powers could be teaming up in the future, and that's Top Rank and that's Al Haymon's PBC. Let's hear from Bob Arum first about the intentions.
But, as far as Tank Davis is concerned, I think that more and more we're talking with PBC, and we'll be making fights with them.
Is part of Turki Al-Shakh and the new is part of that prompting you guys to work together more when in the past you may not have.
That is correct.
Okay. So that's competition in the marketplace is a good thing, kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
this is where I question how early this TKO thing was announced, because it was a middle finger to all those promoters who are taking the Turkey money right now and putting on, Riyadh Citizen or Ring Champ or Ring Magazine cards, but they all now have to fight for their own future. And you're seeing that. I had a feature this past week on CBS Sports about Jake Paul's most valuable promotions and the fact that they're raising a ton of capital and are willing to work with some of these other promoters. Luke, I will say this, the next 12 to 18 months in boxing, which have already been on fire because of the Saudi Arabia money. We have to give them credit for that. There's been big matchup after big matchup. But competition is ultimately what fuels the best fights to happen and the fans to be excited. I always point back to 2013 when Floyd Mayweather, Al Haymon, and all the fighters that would eventually make up PBC a few years later left the traditional power in the States of HBO, went over to Showtime, and those 2 networks dueled in that 2013 calendar year with show after show that was just delight to the fans. I think there could be that future here, especially if these old guard are now saying, look, we want to keep American boxing strong. We might have to work together to do this. So there's some rumors out there that if Tank rematches Roach in June, that we could end up seeing, for example, Stephen Fulton Jr. and Oshaki Foster on that undercard, which is a PBC fighter against a top-ranked fighter. Let's have a fun little breakdown here. You and I both put together, if the future of TKO and of PBC and Top Rank working together means there could be some really fun matchups for fans, you and I separate, we didn't show each other our list, put together the top 5 fights we would want to see as boxing fans. Why don't you introduce yours, Luke?
I don't know how good mine's going to be, and one of these guys I'm not entirely sure is a PBC guy.
Okay,
I know that they have been a PBC guy. I'm not sure what their current status is. How do you want to do this, Long Island Luke? Because I know we have a full on-screen list.
Let's just reveal them all, and then you could talk through each.
All right, here we go. Let's take a look at my list if we can. So here's mine, BC.
So the number 1 fight, introduce it.
So I'll start 5-1.
Sure.
So number 5, Mark Magsayo taking on Oshaki Foster. Now, Foster used to be a PBC guy, is now a top-ranked guy, but Mark Magsayo has been a PBC guy, so that's more of my crossover. So
Magsayo was a former title holder at 26. Foster has a belt right now at 130.
So, okay, but I feel like...
But it could happen.
It could happen,
Sure.
yes. Next, Xander Zayas taking on Sebastian Fundora, which there's already been rumors.
Well, Zayas is the mandatory for one of
Yes.
Fundora's 2 titles at 54.
And it does seem like there might be some institutional will to make this one happen. A few different directions you could go from here. But I'm going to go Emmanuel Navarrete taking on Stephen Fulton Jr., which would just be an absolute motherfucking banger.
So the idea of Fulton fighting Foster would suggest that Fulton's willing to go up to 30, even though he has a title at 26. Navarrete, longtime or current title holder at 130. That would be an interesting matchup.
All right. Then easy call, BC. Tank Davis taking on Keyshawn Davis.
Oh my God.
That would probably be number one on most people's list.
Yeah, it's egregious that you have that number one fight above this. This is John Jones, Robert Whittaker
it's
level.
not that bad.
Come on,
it's not that bad. It's not that bad. I love Caleb Plant. I initially was like Caleb Plant versus not Jaime Munguia, Edgar Berlanga, which is the one I really want to see. But as I understand it, BC, Berlanga is a promotional free agent as it stands today, right?
Yes.
Do you have any sense about where he might sign? Like, if you had to guess?
So I wrote a feature about it. I interviewed him last week and wrote a feature about his future. He said he's willing to talk to Turkey, willing to talk to Jake Paul's MVP, but he identified 3 matchups that he wants most. 1 is Jaime Munguia.
Okay.
2 is Caleb Plant. 3 is Jermall Charlo. But I think the Plant one supersedes that because of the trash talk. Now, in the last 24 hours, Berlanga put out a video ripping Plant and saying, you're not the A side, I'm the A side, send me a contract, blah, blah, blah. And Plant responded at the fights on Saturday and kind of was just like, if you want to fight me, like, let's fight. Like I'm not going to do this back and forth dancing. So it would probably need Berlanga to sign with PBC. But if you think about it, he could get the Charlo and the Plant fight and maybe Benavidez if he's willing to move up to 75. So, or David Morrell. So I think PBC would give him the most amount of options for a multi-fight deal.
Yes. So Caleb Plant versus Jaime Munguia.
I just can't believe you like that better than Davis versus Davis.
I definitely. I can't say that I actually do, but I just love the idea of Caleb Plant's options, I suppose. It's like a weird way to describe that. I definitely am not like stupid enough to be like, oh, it's smaller than, or it's bigger, than Davis versus, Keyshawn Davis versus Gervonta Davis. But that's obviously the biggest one you could make, I think, on any weight class. But I was a little bit tough on this one because I was like, where do we go with, like, can I use Efe Ajagba against any PBC heavyweight? I don't know who that would be, or even
the problem is you have
Richard
Tyson
Torres. I don't know if that makes sense either.
You have Tyson Fury on Top Rank, but there's no huge PBC heavyweight at the moment. You have Naoya Inoue on Top Rank, but there's no huge PBC.
And there used to
22
be a
or
bunch of
26
heavyweights
at the
PBC.
moment.
So
because Gary Russell Jr. said that he would be willing to fight Inoue at 130, but he also said he may never fight again because of the shoulder injury.
And also, Inoue apparently is close to signing up with Murajan Akhmadaliev. I saw that this morning
for the fall.
as well.
Yes.
All right, so independent of the ranking itself, the 5 fights that I listed, Plant Munguia, Davis, Navarrete, Fulton, Zayas, Fundora, Magsayo, Foster. What do you think?
I'll give you a 7 out of 10. I like a lot of these matchups, but I think you left a little bit on the table, and you'll go.
I expect
your
list. Your list should be better than mine.
Well, let's see what I came up with. It's no Inoue and no Fury, but check this out. Number 5 is Stephen Fulton Jr. taking on
Carrington.
So Bruce Shushu Carrington scored a big knockout on Saturday and called out 3 of the champions in his division: Rafael Espinoza, Stephen Fulton Jr., and Nick Ball from the UK.
Yeah,
and
you can lick Ball right here in the studio.
And that would indicate that he's ready to fight for a title. Fulton Carrington, even though it feels too early for Shushu, would be a very,
I'll be honest, it feels way too early for me.
But he's the one who's saying that. So that's number 5. Number 4 would be Vasily Lomachenko defending his IBF lightweight title against Pitbull
let me ask a question.
Cruz.
I did not include Lomachenko because I thought he was fucking retired.
No, there's rumors that he or not rumor. There's the feeling that after some time off, he'd be willing. Now, they haven't stripped him of the title, so there's some feeling that after time off, he'd be willing to come back.
Okay, all right,
and I know that Pitbull
things.
Cruz fought his last 2 at 140, but would you not agree, after him losing to El Rayo Valenzuela at 140 and then being in that shootout with what's the guy's name? Angel Fierro, that 135 is a better division.
It's a much better division.
Would you not be entertained by Pitbull versus Loma? That's my number 4.
I'm not hating on, dude. I love your list. I didn't know we had Lomachenko at the ready.
Number 3, Teofimo Lopez and Gary Antoine Russell in a 140-pound title unification.
Lopez has got 1 fight left on his deal, doesn't he?
Okay, but he's a current top-ranked fighter, so I think that's legal, right?
Oh, you went with a list I didn't know he had access to.
He says he has 1 fight left. Top Rank believes he has multi. So there's a debate there.
Okay. I wasn't aware of that. I mean, let me be clear. Lopez versus Russell, fucking love it. I think Lopez is too athletic for him right now.
It'd be interesting. Number 2, no title at stake at the moment, but Top Rank promotes Artur Beterbiev. David Benavidez is an interim title at 175.
Yeah, that's a great call.
There is a situation where obviously Turkey wants the Bivol Beterbiev trilogy, and now Eddie Hearn, the promoter of Bivol, and his manager are both saying that they're willing to drop one of the 4 titles in order to make that trilogy. Imagine if that title becomes vacant, and then you have Benavidez fight Callum Smith for it. And then imagine win or lose in the trilogy if Beterbiev and Benavidez fight. Dude, that is must-see pay-per-view TV.
Totally agree.
And then number 1, I said coming into this year that the fight I wanted above all in boxing was Tank Davis versus Shakur Stevenson. But after what Keyshawn Davis did to win the title against Berinchik and the run he's on, I said I'd be willing to sub in Keyshawn if he's willing. Imagine Davis versus Davis. It's funny. Bob Arum also was quoted this weekend as saying, I need to talk to Tank. He needs to keep fighting. He needs to get refocused. That leads me to believe that they want to do big business together, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad we only had one overlap. I definitely, let me see BC's list one more time. So number 5, I don't like. Number 4, I like.
Yes.
Number 3, to me.
Number 3's badass. Teofimo against Gary Antoine Russell.
But Russell fights so infrequently.
No, that's Gary Russell Jr. This is Gary Antoine Russell. The one who just beat.
This is Antoine Russell? Or this is his brother?
No, his brother hasn't fought in forever and is a 126 fighter. This is two 140-pound champions doing a unification.
Yes. Okay, so this is the younger brother.
The one who just put on that clinic against Valenzuela.
Okay, now I'm all in. Love that one. I mean, what can I even say about the top 2?
The second one's the biggest fight you can make between them. In terms of
your number 1 and your number 2 are definitely the 2 biggest fights they can make. I don't even know what else. Who would?
Okay, if you could make Tank Inoue, but Inoue's not jumping up to lightweight. You know what I mean?
Let me ask a question. How big of a fight? Not like I'm not saying it's better than Beterbiev and Benavidez, but like, give me your sense of. Imagine somehow they sign whoever top rank. I know Munguia. I'm sorry. I know Berlanga used to be with them, but let's say he just went back for whatever. How big of a fight is Caleb Plant versus Edgar Berlanga?
I think it's pretty big. For boxing hardcores, it's huge because it's a grudge match.
Yeah.
That fuels it so much. It's an interesting clash in terms of their styles and abilities. I don't think it would be commercial through the roof, but could you make it a pay-per-view main event with a good undercard? I think you could.
Okay.
I think you could, man.
Yeah, okay. Your list is better than mine, for sure. But I had a couple little bangers in there.
Yeah,
I had a couple little bangers.
Definitely did. And would I want Plant Munguia? Hell to the
the 3 that we differed, well, there's 4 we differed, but of the 3 other ones, Navarrete, Fulton, Zayas, Fundora, Magsayo, Foster, which one do you like those the most?
Say the 3 again.
Navarrete, Fulton, Zayas, Fundora, Magsayo, Foster.
Zayas Fundora. That was my number 6 on this list.
Okay.
Yeah. That is a hell of a fight. I tried to get creative and find a fight for Errol Spence, maybe against Teofimo. I mean, there's a couple things you can do here, right?
Yeah.
Teofimo's been talking about going to 54 forever, even though he's a title holder at 40. So that's interesting. All right, Luke. Wow, those are our 5 topics. And I got something to show you right here.
What do you got, BC?
How about our new partner, Huel, which is falling right in...
Show the camera. Show the camera.
Falling right into what I'm all about, okay? Getting that daily protein intake right there, okay, Luke? I am fired up about Huel, okay? Huel Black Edition Ready to Drink is a meal in a bottle. One bottle contains 35 grams of protein right here.
Damn.
27 vitamins and minerals and is low in sugar. Huel is a perfectly balanced meal designed by nutrition experts and takes the guesswork out of healthy eating. But Luke, on top of the healthy part, it tastes great.
Yeah.
Strawberry banana. Yesterday I had the coffee version.
That's the one
of
I had
it.
yesterday too.
Oh
Yep.
my gosh, it's fantastic.
It's delicious. And by the way, we have a deal for, of course, all the MK listeners. If you want to try Huel, again, it's a meal in a bottle, right? New customers can visit Huel, that's Huel, Huel.com/combat, of course, combat with a K today, and use our code COMBAT to get 15% off your first order plus a free gift. Now, BC, when I'm looking to get proper nutrition, what am I looking for? Of course, it has to have good vitamin count, right? I mean, you got to have your micronutrients, but you got to have the macronutrients too, and it's high in protein. This is not one of those meals that's going to have a gazillion carbs and then not enough protein.
35 grams of protein.
You're going to get
bottle.
plenty of protein with this. And by the way, stupidly convenient. Whether it's this bottle or you can mix that with, this is the shaker, which you can put the powder and then whatever liquid you want to put in there with
nice
it.
Little,
yep.
Put the fruit in your bottle if you want to have
to
water
break it all
with
up.
Yeah, there you go.
Cheaper
right
than
there.
a cup of coffee for each of those little packets or the bottle itself. By the way, tastes pretty great. I mean, your mileage may vary, but we've tried it and I certainly like it. And of course,
I love the taste of it.
And you have the go-to flavors: iced coffee, strawberry banana, which is this one here, chocolate and vanilla. Make it however you want.
And you can get it already in the bottle, or you can get the bag of the protein powder. That's already part of my daily diet of what I'm trying to do. Have a high protein diet, low in sugar. So this fits right into there. So the viewers of Morning Combat, you want to get involved. Once again, let's go to new customers, Huel.com, Huel/combat with a K today, and use that code combat with a K to get 15% off your first order plus a free gift. Check out Huel. Tell them BC and LT sent you. Fired up about that one.
Yep.
All right, with our 5 topics behind us here, What we do every Sunday night is we put a call to action on social media.
I have a quick correction. Not correction, but update.
Yes.
Our friend of the show, Rodrigo Del Campo Gonzalez, I'm saying that like a gringo, he tagged us, and he says, hey, Luke and BC, Diego Lopez, 100, but I don't know if you know who Rodrigo Del Campo Gonzalez is. He's maybe one of the foremost Mexican broadcasters for doing play-by-play and whatnot, and obviously he has covered MMA extensively. He says, Diego Lopez 100% represents Mexico, has lived and trained here for a decade, fought most of his career here, owns a gym and trains fighters here, beloved by most fans here, and has ties with Guadalajara since he's been coaching Grasso and Aldana.
Excellent.
There you go.
The roots do go deep right there. Would he be okay in a title fight headlining Noche? Yeah, I think he would.
Yeah, I think he'd be fine.
Especially against Yair. Good Lord on that one.
That'd be a sick fight.
We want to hear from you. So every Sunday night at Morning Combat on X, on Instagram, we put out the call to hear your questions, but they better be good, and you better not have some weird user tag that we can make fun of. This one's called DMs from Donks.
Oh, God.
That's gross.
Booty Eater 69 says.
All right, let's get the first one here from Henry Ocean. What annoys Luke more? When people in the crowd of UFC are wooing Ric Flair style, or when people are shouting chihuahuas? And by the
it's
way,
definitely the wooing.
By the way, Luke, ESPN had like a full feature about chihuahuas before the Raul Rosas fight.
That's that hard-hitting journalism we come to expect from ESPN.
I enjoyed it. Look, there's cringe potential for that thing to get old fast. Are we there yet on chihuahuas? I know you hate woo more than anything.
I hate woo more than anything.
Where are we at? Because I love chihuahuas, but then when I watched that feature, then when I saw Rosas kind of force it in the post-fight interview of doing the 1, 2, 3, like at the Sphere, it was awesome. Is it jumping the shark already, or we still have time?
I'm fairly neutral on chihuahuas. I don't love or hate it. It's whatever.
What does it sound like to you? Like, do you think we shouldn't voice stuff like this, but do you think that's his call to action on the finish in real life too?
Well, you think he busts a nut and goes, chihuahuas?
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Wooing is the worst, and people who woo at MMA events should be beaten with batons and then
tased. It's not as bad as
tased.
a wave. The wave is the worst thing ever.
I don't mind. I don't do the wave, but I don't mind the wave.
How could you not mind the wave?
Because I just fucking ignore it.
Can't you ignore the wooing?
No. These low-level primates throwing their feces like howler monkeys at the zoo.
It's like just them taking part of the excitement.
No, it's them making it all about themselves. That's different. Totally different.
Obviously, you don't have experience watching pro wrestling because that's what the crowd does. And the only good thing about that,
no, I feel like the crowd works in unison with the performer.
The only good thing about pro wrestling crowds is they will voice critically. Like if the company's pushing someone that they don't want, they will boo the whole time.
Okay.
They will put on the chants that are negative, and that is telling the company we do not stand for this.
Yeah, but no. I've definitely seen clips where Stone Cold was like, "And I had one beer. What?
Yeah,
and then I had 2 beers.
Yeah. That's
but
bad.
I mean, it's like a call. That's like a call and response. Everyone's working together. That's different than I'm just a dumb piece of shit who sat in a seat. And I'm going to make it all about me by fucking screaming in an arena. These are losers. These are fucking losers who do this.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to our second question from Z firm FRM ESP, whatever that means. Would you rather see Joaquin Buckley or Ian Machado Gary step up with Jeff Neal being out of his fight against Carlos Prates? So if anyone doesn't know, that loaded 314 card in Miami still loaded. Carlos Prates' fight. Who was his original opponent? Jeff Neal.
Jeff Neal.
Neal's what, injured or sick?
I'm not sure exactly why he pulled
and
out.
Prates basically teased that the UFC is going to take care of him. And he's going to have a bigger announcement. So if that bigger announcement was either Ian Gary or Joaquin Buckley, which one would you want it to be? Because they'd be a banger fight either way.
It would be great either way. I would prefer Buckley. I prefer Buckley.
Okay.
He's a little bit more advanced in his career. He did take a fight on relatively, I don't know if it was the Colby fight came together relatively short, right? Because he was supposed to fight Gary himself and then the whole thing. But he won. And Gary had to take the Rachmanov fight on short notice, and we obviously performed well enough, but
it was the biggest win of Gary's career.
Yeah, in a loss.
It was.
Also an L.
Tell me it wasn't.
I just did.
Okay.
It's an L.
Okay.
But the point is, here's the difference.
Can you put some respect on the number 3 pound for pound welterweight on my list?
Well, here's the thing. He's 27 years old. I don't want him taking a bunch of short notice fights.
Sorry, number 2. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want him taking a bunch of short notice fights. Let him. He took the opponent on short notice, and now it's time to kind of retool a little bit. Whereas I feel like Buckley can step on the gas at this stage of his career. I'd prefer Buckley.
But isn't Pratis out of the top 10, and these are two guys in it? Shouldn't Gary fight Buckley, which was an original matchup that almost happened?
I'd be happy with that too.
Long Island Luke, do you have any opinion on this?
I agree. I'd rather see Buckley just because I think Ian Gary actually has his way with Pratis, where I feel like Buckley's a way more competitive fight. And I like Carlos Pratis. I want him to win, so I'd rather go more competitive.
Pratis Morales? Or would you be eliminating two potential future guys?
Morales is fighting Gilbert Burns and
that's
Michael
right.
Morales, yes.
That's right.
Which is a sick-ass fight.
That is a sick-ass fight. All right. Interesting stuff right there. It's not going to be Wonder Boy, right? Or something like that. Please no.
I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do with him.
All right, there we go. Let's go to number 3. This is from AZ Ray Videos. Our guy, Arturo, by the way, Luke, from Mexico, lives in the UK, and he was in our receiving line at the London Live show.
Yeah, sick. All right.
Shout out to that guy right there. Who is your favorite Mexican fighter in both boxing and MMA? He doesn't say all-time or current, but if we're going all-time for me in boxing, El Terrible, Eric Morales.
Yeah, you're a Morales fucking guy.
Massive fucking
I will say, dude, it's cool to see JCC at these MMA events.
Yes.
And he's received like a fucking hero, which of course he should be.
Damn right.
It's cool. Like, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I like boxing and MMA rivalry, but then I like it when the boxing greats like kind of pay respect by showing up to UFC events, and then like the crowd loves them. So cool to see JCC.
Do you have a Mexican boxing hero, whether it be Marco Antonio Barrero, Juan Manuel Marquez? I can go on.
It's probably Juanma.
Canelo.
Yeah, it's probably Marquez. Because I remember when Marquez flatlined Pacquiao, I couldn't believe it.
You think Chavez would duck Benavidez?
No, probably not.
I think Chavez would fight Benavidez right now.
You know what's kind of crazy is Chavez has to like navigate this minefield because every time he does media, they're always asking him, "Do you think Canelo's ducking?" And he has to be like, "Well." So definitely, I would say that on the MMA side, that's a tough one.
I mean, it's still early-ish.
Yeah,
Like Brandon Moreno would be a perfect answer, of course.
You're still dealing with basically the first big generation of Mexican fighters.
And are we disqualifying Mexican-American fighters from this conversation?
I don't know how to answer that question. Like, how do you does
like
Kane
I can't
count?
say Brian Ortega or Kane.
Yeah,
right?
do those guys count? I mean, they certainly are Mexican, but they're also Americans. If you're talking like direct Mexican nationals, probably Moreno. Probably Moreno.
He's so lovable, I think is the right word.
But if we're counting Mexican Americans, then I'm going to count Kane. For sure, I'm going to count Kane.
Yeah, absolutely. Still, at the peak for peak, the best heavyweight I've ever seen still. Or would or would Prime Ngannou crush him? I still say no. Prime Ngannou does not
I think
crush
Prime
him.
Kane is maybe the most terrifying heavyweight I've ever seen.
Thank you. And on the streets, potentially.
Well, I mean, that's a whole different story.
Okay. Let's go to the fourth one here from Sticks Plays Time. What or when is the most excited you've been watching combat sports? So I would assume, I'm going to assume this question is like coming in pre-fight, or is it in the moment, or what is it? Because if it's coming in pre-fight, UFC 116, Brock versus Carwin was just that build was Hogan Andre, dude.
Yeah,
it was
and Brock getting the shit beaten out of him in that first round was.
And then rallying back, although Carwin's gas tank just.
That's a big one.
Silva Sonnen too, dude.
Silva Sonnen won for me.
Coming in too, really?
Yeah, because he had picked that fight. And, Sonnen you kind of thought was like, oh, he might perform well, but he'll fade, like everybody else does against Silva. And then you're like 4.5 rounds in, you're like, oh, fuck, he's going to do this. Then he doesn't do it.
Dude, Habib Conor, the biggest fight in MMA history.
Dude, how about Conor Poirier, where I was like, oh, my God. the MK
so
highlight?
In terms of post-result, that's your number one.
That's a big one. I'm heading into it. Okay, so fight week, Spence Crawford was like, pins and needles, bro. Pins and needles on that one.
What
that
about,
was a big
Triple
one.
G Canelo, the lead-in
That's a
and
big
coming
one.
out of there
Yep,
was just
that's a big one.
John Jones Cormier too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Huge.
Yes.
One of the best promos ever.
Great
you,
call.
Long Island.
Totally great call. And by the way, Kane's comeback did not feel that way. Like by the time Kane was getting to Francis Ngannou, I was like, I don't know how this is going to go.
No.
But
Long Island,
also in the moment, Fedor getting triangle choked by Fabricio Verdum was like earth-shattering.
Absolutely. Was there a moment of a fight heading in that you were the most excited you ever were? Was it Jones Cormier?
It's Jones Cormier too. I say that all the time. Literally, the promo for that fight is the best MMA promo I've ever seen.
Conor 205, Rousey's UFC debut. These are all pretty fucking big moments, man.
I don't know, even though, again, I wasn't in the MGM Grand at UFC 196. I was in the press room next to it because we had already had enough ESPN people in the arena. The sound I heard, the feeling of the ground shaking when Conor tapped actually before Conor tapped. You remember when you noticed that he was gassed? Remember that?
Yes, when he shot.
That moment when it turned, that rumble of was something I'll never forget. That feeling was just insane, man.
Yeah, can you imagine being Nate in that moment? It's fucking, it's like hard to imagine like what that must be like.
Finally, from a guy who's here every damn week, flannels and jits. I mean, do you think this guy is employed?
No, this guy's this guy is.
We need guys.
He's on somebody's watch list. I don't know if it's the neighborhood watch list or somebody else's.
We're not going to rank 10, but what are the go-to fights, Luke? If a new
I have a great answer for this.
If a new fan said Pride, Strikeforce, or WEC era non-UFC fights, what's the go-to here?
I think there are 3 events you should watch in Pride, and there's other ways to go.
No,
with
he's saying fights. He's saying fights.
Right, but so he counted 10. So let me get through this, and I'll show you how you get to 10. One is you should watch Fedor versus Krokop, which I think was like Final Conflict 2004. One of the best heavyweight.
2005.
One of the best heavyweight title fights still to this day.
And the anticipation leading into that was
20 years later, it still holds up. That's rare in MMA. That's the first thing I'd say. But here's real easy. If you've never seen it, you should watch Shogun's march through the middleweight tournament. They call it middleweight, but it's light heavyweight. It's it's the best performance by an MMA fighter in any tournament in MMA history. Watch the whole tournament and watch him just mow these motherfuckers down. And then my recommendation, watch Pride Body Blow. So this is when Fedor fought Nogueira for the first time. He was a big underdog. This was a huge shock, but this is also Rampage Jackson versus Kevin Randleman.
Damn.
This was, I think it was Oyama versus Silva? I think that's, no. Yeah, I think that's right. I'll have to look here. Hold on. Let me pull up the card. Pride Body Blow. Yes, Pride 25. So here's who's on that card. As I mentioned, top Fedor versus Nogueira, Rampage versus Kevin Randleman, which was a fucking awesome fight. You guys won't know who Nino Schembri is, but Nino Schembri versus Kazushi Sakuraba. Nino Schembri won, which was a gigantic upset.
Is this
Huge.
more Ronaldo and Boss Rutan on all these calls?
I think it might have been Quadros at this point, but it was Boss. Dan Henderson versus Shungo Oyama, which is a cool fight. Oh, this is right. How about Anderson Silva absolutely fucking icing Carlos Newton? That's a big one on this one as well. And then there's some other ones. Akira Shoji beating Alex Stiebling. Stiebling had called himself the Brazilian killer. That didn't do him any favors. He didn't do great after that. And then also Little Nog was on this one against Kazuhiro Nakamura. But the top of that card, Jackson, Randleman, Emelianenko, Nogueira, Henderson, Oyama, and then Silva, Carlos Newton. Holy fucking shit, watch these fights.
The go-to Strikeforce ones are very easy. Okay, Paul Daly versus Nick Diaz. Then you got Dan Hendo versus Fedor.
Talking about all-time Strikeforce?
They wanted to know the Strikeforce from that era of Pride, Strikeforce, and WEC.
Okay.
That new fans haven't seen. These are the fights you need to watch.
Yeah.
You need to watch Verdum tapping Fedor in the
that's a big one.
The Grand Prix
How about
tournament.
this? The Strikeforce Heavyweight Grand Prix.
Oh, watch Cormier's run through that.
I was there when Fedor got bodied by Bigfoot Silva, which nobody was expecting at that point. That was a huge one.
Watch a couple of those Scott Smith comebacks,
Dude,
like the first Kung Lee fight.
That's a great one. If you've never seen Kung Lee versus Frank Shamrock, or more to the point, if you've never seen Cormier versus Josh Barnett, I dare you to watch that and tell me what UFC heavyweight fight has been better than that one recently. Yeah. And we're talking, these are fights that aired quite a long time ago. Also on Strikeforce, of course, Rousey versus Tate.
The first one has so many reversals on the ground.
Which was a big one there as well. If you're looking for WEC, if you've never seen the title run of Mike Brown, who now is a famous coach, dude, Mike Brown, when he hit Leonard Garcia, it's one of my favorite knockouts. He hits Leonard Garcia with, I believe, a left hand that is so hard, you can watch Garcia leave his feet.
He's this diminutive coach that they call Mikey, yet Mike Thomas Brown was a killer. He iced Faber, just iced the shit out of him.
When people look at, like, Jose Aldo beating Brown, it looks pretty straightforward. You're like, well, how good was Brown? Dude, Brown was fucking awesome. And then Aldo goes in there and just smokes him.
Yeah.
You couldn't believe it. Pequeño Nogueira, by the way, obviously was one of, I think, Aldo's debut.
If you had to pick one WEC fight, wouldn't you pick Pettis Henderson 1?
You'd pick Pettis Henderson 1? I got a deep cut for you. Carlos Condit versus Hiromitsu Miura, which was an absolute dog fight from beginning to end. Dude, WEC had some fucking bangers.
Todd Harris was good on that back then.
Who?
Todd Harris?
Yeah, he was all right. Yeah. Frank Mir was pretty good, too, as a commentator. And then Frank Mir says he wanted to be the first guy to have a kill in the octagon, and they removed him from that. You know, what are you going to do?
Thank you for your questions, folks. You really got Luke excited, and that's the goal on this. So thank you very much. We got one more segment for you. It's the
called
segment
Ass and Titties.
It's the segment designed to make Luke Thomas emote in very uncomfortable ways as I scour the globe every Sunday for the highs and lows, the good, the bad, the ugly in the worlds of combat sports and beyond. This one's called Have You Seen This Shit?
Have you seen this?
I think I shit my pants on the last hoo-ah. That's a Dennis Leary.
Buttered sausage. Why are we talking about buttered sausage? Get it out of my
Gary
face.
Busey. That was a Dennis Leary bit about Elvis, which he probably stole from Bill Hicks. All right, Luke, let's go to XFC 52 in Iowa City. This is you on the call, Jaron Lathrop. Did I say that right?
Jaron Lathrop. Yeah.
Jaron Lathrop. This is the dude's pro debut.
Pro fucking
Listen
debut.
And watch this.
Jaron Lathrop throwing a high volume, but Shinkarevsky, for the most part, has had an answer. Oh, caught the kick once again.
Damn.
And by the way, prior to this, let me just say this.
Don't bury your own call.
That was like watching Buckley sending Impa Kasanganai to the land of wind and ghosts.
Dude,
But
great
we saw
call.
it here in Iowa City. What a beautiful highlight.
What a moment. Great call.
Yeah.
Once you know, everyone's screaming over each other, but then it laid out. Luke delivered the soundbite. Great moment.
So thank you so much. Also, that guy has an interesting story. So Lathrop lost his amateur debut, then rattled off 12 wins in a row. This was his pro debut. And I was like, dude, I've watched a lot of pro debuts. They don't go that well. That's unbelievable. But the other part, too, is that kid, Shinkarevsky, you can't see it from this highlight. He was doing awesome. He had hurt Lathrop twice to the body in this fight. He is, by the way, 2-0, or he was 2-0, and now he's 2-1. He is over at Fight Ready. He got Henry Cejudo ready for Song Yadong. He was cruising in this fight and then let his guard down for a fucking instant.
And so you said you called an amateur fight off camera
Yes,
to kind of get
before
ready.
this one. Mhm.
That's the first fight you called officially in XFC history.
That's the
for
first
you.
one. Yes.
What a moment. It must have just like kick charged the whole night,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I couldn't believe it, dude. I was so happy.
You told me in the main event to watch out for a gentleman named Kenny Cross, who could be a future UFC fighter if he continues on the direction he's on.
Yeah.
He only needed 14 seconds.
Yeah,
in the
watch
main
this.
event.
Out performances for XFC in 2024, and now he has that opportunity. We are underway in the main event of XFC 52.
Open stance fight, so pay attention. There could be head clashes.
Yeah, pay attention.
As well
Here
as
it
lead
comes.
foot positioning.
Yeah, I just talked about lead
again,
foot positioning. Just nailed him to the wall.
Look at the hair, too. How was that crowd?
I thought it was a great crowd, man. I mean, they showed up early. They were there the whole time. Obviously, I don't have the numbers. It's regional MMA. You know, you have to understand it for what it is. But I thought it worked. Those people in Iowa, man, they were ready for it. I have a feeling that UFC, when they go there, it's going to be it's Des Moines. This was Iowa City.
Of course it will be. That's amateur wrestling heaven.
But dude, that kid Kenny Cross, he's so fucking ready for the next level. That kid, the guy he beat was Lucas Corbaggi, who's a Brazilian who lives out of Argentina, who's a good fighter. And he got smoked in 14 seconds. I really hope the UFC pulls up Kenny Cross. He's ready.
Well, it was great to hear you in that chair. You
Thanks,
did a
bro.
fantastic job. Luke, Real did recognize Real, as we mentioned earlier, at UFC Mexico City. Check out the great one, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr.
Yeah, man.
With Chama. Alex Pereira. I don't understand. I mean, the shorts and the black shoes combo is interesting, but when you're a badass, you can wear whatever you want.
Yeah, of course.
To see these two give each other love, like, this is what we want.
That's what I said. Dude, anybody who's ever like been a real fight fan knows what's up with JCC here. And I love that JCC loves MMA, dude. I really do. It actually, you know, it's because everyone's like, oh, Mike Tyson likes MMA, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But a lot of boxers just don't fuck with it at all. So to see a one who's like a fucking national icon freaking like it is so awesome.
By the way, I saw JCC Jr. at the Fundora card ringside, and I have to say he looked healthy, looked in shape, I know he's talking about he wants a Canelo rematch, but
yeah, I'm good on that.
Okay, let's keep this fun segment going. How about some elder abuse? Yes, that's what we do here. Throwback to 2023. This is at Country Box in Nashville, Tennessee. Mark Abrams, my boy, on the call. 58-year-old Scott England was making his pro debut in boxing. Let's
When
see
the bell rings, this man will set the Guinness World Record for being
58.
the oldest professional boxer to make his pro debut. In this historic fight,
he looks ready.
We want you to welcome this hometown legend from Music City.
I gotta say, it looks like he's in pretty good shape.
Scott England.
Oh, never mind. He's got some. He got some saggies.
58 years old out of Hendersonville, Tennessee.
I don't know how this is legal, by the way.
Yeah. This is going to go bad, right?
In the
Let's
black,
see.
got a record of 0-6.
Nice jab.
And
Oh, my God. That, by the way, he got knocked out in 47 seconds. It looked like it was 2 seconds, but it actually was 47. Doesn't it remind you of that guy from early UFC, Fred? What was it, Fred Edish or something like that?
Yeah, Fred Edish. Mm-hmm.
Where he would, like, last minute, he filled in. He was like an old karate master,
Yeah.
and then he
just got whooped like a bitch.
Beat like bloody to a bloody pulp.
That's hilarious. Yeah, this is why 60-year-old men should not be fighting.
All right, we got more elder abuse. This is why old people should not go to college dorms and drink.
Uh-oh, she's going to barf. Oh! Hey,
Lord.
if you puke and then slip in your own puke, you're white trash.
All right, let's keep the elder abuse going.
Put it on. Tell me what you hear.
Dogs. Cat.
And Luke, speaking of elders, this old-time weatherman might want to get his prostate checked.
In Newcastle County,
My man's just jizzing. Look at him. Look at my man just ejaculating everywhere. This is the best.
So this free car wash.
Hell yeah, bro. He's not moving at all. Look at Jim Lampley. He's not moving at all.
There it is right there. All right. Hey, Luke, a wise woman once said that all you need in life is a BBC. Do you agree with that?
Oh, hey, if you got being a weekend like me and you're not being good at self-defense, then you need a big black cock. With a big black cock, you can be and protect yourself from anything. You just need to be in block with your cock. If somebody being attack you, cock block. If somebody come to your door, cock block. If somebody trying to steal your car, cock block. So be and remember, all you need to be and protect yourself is a big black cock. But never be and choke your chicken. Just kissing your cock.
BC, if I brought my cock in, would you kiss it?
All right, street fights of the week. They call this clip not mixed martial arts, mixed partial arts, Luke.
2 drunks?
Yeah, well, 3 drunks. Watch this.
Oh!
Then that other dude fell. It was well.
I like how all three of them lost to the ground.
Oh, this wasn't a street fight, but it was a weigh-in fight. Check out what happened at BKFC.
Good luck, guys.
Don't touch him.
I'm not nigga. Don't touch him. Don't touch me.
Oh. Can't be doing that.
Got the scale.
Oh, he's gonna get the scale. Dude, BKFC has the roughest characters, bro.
Look at Feldman. He's panicking, rightfully
So who
right
won?
there. I don't know, but
Oh,
I think we all won just for watching
Yeah,
that,
fair
all right?
enough.
Luke, don't kids say and do the darndest things?
I got one that does.
Look, he's playing with the car on him. It's so cute. He's got a little town, two towers. What does he do?
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, I didn't see a Building 7 there, Luke, but let's continue on to the show before we lose our sponsors. Hey, here's Devin Haney.
If it's true or not, but I just heard that if you chew gum, like, it makes your, like, jaw stronger. So my theory is you can be able to take punches better.
Yeah, I don't think the gum does that.
Okay, all right.
I think we disproved the gum theory, did we not?
Yeah. Luke, let's go to the women's rugby pitch where they're always just dropping
Oh,
bodies,
dude,
right?
you got some big Berthas.
Icebox, look at her. Wow.
Yo, she lowered the fucking
Can we see that again?
on this mortal.
Good Lord.
Yo. God.
I don't know. Is that legal in that sport?
Dude, that is, I mean, I don't want to weigh in onto the trans controversy. I'm just saying you might need a trans person in there to compete with her.
All
She
right,
is
sir.
huge.
Luke, one of my favorite follows on IG. You know that Boston Be a Man guy?
Yeah. He's like, take a dump in your pants. Be a man.
Yeah, let's watch this.
If your girl's having her period and she has to go to the store to get tampons, never come back. Be a man.
Every one of those be a man things is like how to be an abusive alcoholic.
Yes, absolutely. Luke, it's March Madness time, so let's hit the hardwood. We have a new spawn. It's Bill Lane Beer 2.0. Watch this breakaway.
Okay, let's see if he can get it. Oh, dude, what the fuck?
God, Lord.
What the fuck was that? How are the other guys not swinging on him?
If you're a teammate and you don't instantly go and fight him, like what are you
doing?
Here?
They sent that other kid. They gave him like frequent flyer miles with
I think
that.
gave him CTE as on top of that.
Yeah,
let's go to the youth basketball game. Hey, Grandma, can you walk around?
Damn, she looks barely mobile. I got to tell you, there's a lot of parts of Middle America where people move like, oh, get the fuck off the, get the fuck. Damn, bro. They
didn't even stop the game.
She doesn't give a fuck about your game.
Hey, Luke, have you ever seen...
By the way, got to say, a lot of buffets in the Midwest.
Yeah.
A lot of buffets.
There's a reason
also,
for that.
I had Mexican food twice in Iowa. Let me just say something. Put the camera on me for just a second.
No.
Let me say, the Mexican restaurants in Iowa, they're pulling a fast one on the gringos. Worst Mexican food I've ever had in my life.
Worse than Taco L?
Taco L was a major upgrade compared to this.
I didn't hear the B. I didn't hear it that time. All right.
Dude, you're making fun of me. I'm telling you it's true. They say certain letters softly.
Look, remember in the Little League World Series where sometimes there's like this fat kid that's 6'2" and you're like, how is he 13 years old?
Yeah.
Well, check out this 7'3" 13-year-old from Montreal.
This fucking freak who drinks out of the shower. Get this motherfucker out of here.
He's just a kid, but this is not fair.
Dude, someone needs to euthanize this
is 8th grade, dude. Come on.
Send him to some prison camp and get your money's worth.
You can't stop him.
This is bullshit, dude. This is bullshit. You got some genetic freak who drinks out of the shower here playing.
Imagine if he was Danny Almonte style. He was really like 26.
Yeah, I mean, and he's acting like he's a baller. You're just a big ass oaf.
All right. Let's also go to your 3-pointer of the week from this fireman, Luke. Oh. Boy. Oh, God.
And the house is on fire, you piece of shit.
All right, Luke, new segment. It's called Would You Eat? Let's go to your native country of India.
Wait, you skipped the car one.
Oh, thank you, Long Island, Luke. Where's the car one? Oh, you're right. Here's your dunk of the week. Sorry. Thank you, Nosita, for saving me.
Maybe a little bit of a Darwin Award. Hey, you know what? Here's 3 needles to the bag right here.
Yeah, I've had that. It took away my manhood. Thank you, Nosita. Let's now go to Would You Eat? Luke, this is your home country, street food culture in India. This is called a monster omelet. Would you eat?
That's Monster Energy with an egg?
Yeah. Would you try it?
I'm intrigued.
Okay.
Okay. Enough eggs. What are you? Okay, a lot of hands being used.
No one told this guy that there's a huevo shortage in the U.S. at the moment.
Yeah, he didn't give a fuck.
You would try that, right?
I don't know if I'd try it off the street.
All right.
But I'm tempted by the idea.
Let's go to the next one here. Would you eat this flavor of Doritos?
I don't know how to answer that without losing my job.
Okay, hey, tip on tip alert. Weigh-in boner of the week.
We got some hard boys here.
Look at the dude in the red shorts.
Touch them dicks.
This looks like the Mayweather McGregor weigh-in, right?
Dude, sometimes, look, fighting or fucking, same thing.
Yeah. Look at the frozen rope on this Brit. Wow. Yo. I mean, that guy in the sweatpants must be like,
let me ask a question. Yeah. When was the last time you got a wayward boner? Like, not in any way intending to get one.
Do you remember we would get those in high school? Like, you'd be sitting in history class and you'd be like looking at a girl in the front row, and you'd be like, and then the bell rings and you're like,
what am I going to do? I got to carry the trapper keeper in front of me.
Yeah, I don't get too many.
It's been about 30 years since I've had those.
I'm 46, so it's less likely to happen by the day. All right. Yeah, there you go. Hey, let's check back in on regional MMA where you already know, Luke. Anything can happen. All right. Check out this ref.
What the fuck? Ah! Yo! This ref doesn't give a fuck, bro.
No, he doesn't. Oh, my God.
Whoa! Yo,
good Lord.
Yo, what are the rules of this?
Well, there's a lot of fighters in there. This could be one of those gimmick ones where, like in Poland, where they do like 8-on-8 or something. It was weird. I don't know.
Yeah, they do like gangbangs.
All right. First time ever. KO via cage fence. Watch this.
Okay. Who is this? What commission?
The same one that booked Paul Tyson. Luke, God. Okay.
Yo, Chinaka to Waka Solo.
Okay. Let's go to the Muay Thai ring. This regional KO is wild, Luke.
Oh!
Did you see his soul come out of his body? God, Lord. All right. Hey, let's go to the outdoor concert. I got more injuries for you. Oh, God. Wow. Yeah. You wanted front row? You got it. You're right.
Part of the experience.
Yeah, it's like going to a Gallagher show. Yeah, damn right. How dated am I for referencing that? Good Lord.
The audience doesn't even know what that is.
All right, your clothing items of the week. Here's your best hat I can find.
Here for the big titties and tight kitties. That's
Okay.
I'm going to wear that at the family reunion.
Would you wear this next shirt, Luke?
I don't play basketball, but I do have a Magic Johnson.
Okay. All right. Here's your.
I'd probably skip that one.
Let's go to the dress clothes. Here's your suit of the week.
What is this? What the fuck is this?
What about his
I mean, I'm all for subversive fashion. It looks like he got bullied by other kids.
Would you date his lady? Kind of nice, right?
No comment.
Okay. Okay. Luke, we got a couple more to close here. This is an English Premier League. Watch this fan celebrating the win in the center of the screen. Did you see it? He took his piece out.
Do it again?
By the way, no lie, I saw a guy take his piece out today on the subway. Not even lying.
I mean, the New York City subway.
Not even lying. I did see it. Yes. And finally, Luke, this one's for the boys. Let's check it out.
Only the boys will appreciate this one. Oh my God, dude, that's good.
Okay.
That's all the shit I got. That's the end. Thank you. Okay. Yes. Grand opening, grand closing. There it is. Woohoo!
I have liked doing this show. I don't know if today is the last one.
Even Mikey responded after uploading the shit. Two of them, he was like, I'm not sure I can be friends with you anymore, basically.
I don't know if this is the last one, but if it is,
we went out in a blaze of glory.
We had a good time.
We have the results to the poll.
Oh, please.
Oh, whose shoe? Now, how exactly did you word the question?
I wrote, which shoes are worse?
Okay.
Option A was Luke's Bear shoes.
Okay, very good.
And option 2 was BC's CBS shoes.
Okay, I think I'm probably going to win, but let's see.
Yeah, Luke, you had 58% of the votes for worse. Almost 1,000 votes.
See, my poor man dad Jordan / bowling shoes are actually kind of hip.
They're not hip.
They look like they'll fall apart as soon as you step down on them.
Yes,
but
that's true.
They're kind of hip, and I'm repping the brand right here, right? The
That
Tiffany
part is
Network.
kind of interesting, I have to admit.
That's why I picked them.
The problem for me, you know what it is? There's no logo on the side, so it's hard. Like it feels like something's missing.
Well, it was like an end of the year company like gift you can pick if you wanted like the winter coat or the whatever. And I was like, when am I ever going to be offered sneakers by my employer with the company name on?
Yeah.
Do you think we can get MK shoes on our still not yet ready for primetime new merch site?
We. Oh my God, I've got some ideas. Now, okay, I'm not gonna spoil it. I got some ideas.
Okay.
We should sell some MK shoes.
All right. Hey, a reminder, morningcombat@gmail.com will allow you to reach the show. We'll be back Friday for a remote episode, and we need you. Let's get some fan subs. Let's get some dead wrongs in there if you want to play. Thank you very much. And also, a week from Wednesday, April 9th in the studio. Yeah. We're going to do it. UFC 314 pregame preview brought to you by Cuervo. So don't miss it. It's not a traditional day. We're not going to go that Friday because I'm leaving for vacation. Sorry, folks, but we're going to go live Wednesday right here. Special guest as well. So you don't want to miss all of that. Luke, anything else you want to say to these fine people for staying with us?
Yeah, just one more time. Thanks to everybody who tuned in on Friday for XFC. You're asking, when's the next one of those? I think there's supposed to be one in July.
Hell yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. But obviously, thanks to everyone for the support. Thanks to everyone who watched the show today. And we'll see you guys Friday.
Long Island Luke, you have anything else to say?
No, great show. Enjoyed it. That's it.
Well, he's the best in the world right there. For Long Island Luke, the regular Luke, and your boy BC with that BDE that you just can't get enough of. Thank you for tuning in. Take care of yourself. We'll be back on Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern. And until then, we got 2 words for you.
Ass and titties.